Han Wu had awakened the weakest class in history, the locust kin. Naturally, this made him the perfect target for the rich kids in his class to bully. One of them demanded he hand over 100 points of divine power as protection money. If he refused, they'd unleash a 5,000-strong dwarf legion to invade his divine realm, destroy his core, and leave him with nothing. This world was one where everyone had a chance to become a god. People were ranked based on their divine power, divine beings, demigods, true gods, supreme gods, and even god kings. At age 18, everyone would awaken their divine realm and gain their core kin. These kin were ranked by their potential. The lucky ones awakened high potential kin that could evolve into even stronger beings. But Han Wu, who had transmigrated into this world, awakened the weakest of them all, the locust kin. To turn the tide, he had no choice but to rely on the divine access capsule, a device that allowed him to connect to his divine realm. When he opened his eyes again, he viewed his world from a godlike perspective. Zooming in, he found his core kin, a group of completely useless locusts, hopping around a flat plane. Han Wu brought up his control panel, and a glowing blue screen floated in front of him. To his surprise, two special abilities appeared, ones that didn't exist in the original owner's memories. Chosen One, marked by fate. This ability grants one unique attribute every time a level is gained. Life Sacrifice. Sacrifice a living creature to generate a random item of equivalent value, usable once per day. Clearly, Chosen One was as cheat as a transmigrator, and Life Sacrifice was a one-of-a-kind skill on top of that. With these two overpowered abilities, maybe, just maybe, he could fulfill his grandfather's dying wish and find his missing parents. But first, he needed to survive the school tyrant's extortion deadline tomorrow. Just then, he made a discovery. The locusts had a terrifying talent, reproduction. Their numbers and breeding speed were downright absurd. In this world, one day in the real world equaled 1 year in the divine realm. At this rate, the locusts could produce 4 generations per day. Even Han Wu was stunned by the sheer speed. A glint of madness flashed in his eyes. Fine, let's roll the dice. If I win, I'll rise to the top. If I lose, I'll be nothing but a joke. The next day, Han Wu strolled into the classroom as usual, but this time, a stunning figure walked straight toward him. It was Qing Shuang. Han Wu, have you thought it through? If you agree to be my servant, I promise no one will dare to bully you until we graduate, she said, her voice smooth but commanding. Han Wu didn't hesitate for a second. I may not have power or influence, but I still have my dignity. I appreciate your kindness, but if that's all, please leave. Qin Shuang froze for a moment, caught off guard by his decisive rejection. She didn't say anything else, simply tossing out a warning as she turned to leave. You'll regret this soon enough. Shortly after, Zhang Bin swaggered over with a gang of lackeys trailing behind him. Han Wu, where's the 100 points of divine power? If you didn't bring it, I'll crush your divine realm core and leave you utterly useless. Zhang Bin sneered, slamming his hand onto Han Wu's shoulder. Han Wu slapped his hand away without hesitation. Don't touch me. Zhang Bin was stunned. You've got some nerve talking to me like that. If you don't hand over the divine power, I'll destroy your core right now. Han Wu smirked coldly. Go ahead, try it. Zhang Bin hesitated. Something wasn't right. The usually timid Han Wu seemed like an entirely different person today. Suspicious. Zhang Bin glanced over at Qin Shuang, but she didn't even look in their direction. That put his mind at ease, partially. Pulling out a card, Zhang Bin sneered, since you're begging for death, don't blame me for being ruthless. For trash like you, even 10 points of divine power is overkill. Invasion card. Upon activation, it locks onto a target's divine realm and opens a spatial portal for a direct invasion. The card gleamed as it activated, shooting a brilliant beam of light toward Han Wu, forcibly pulling his consciousness into his divine realm. Moments later, a colossal portal, over 100 meters wide, appeared in Han Wu's divine realm. As the portal slowly opened, an overwhelming army began marching through Zhang Bin's dwarf legion, numbering over 5,000. Hovering above the army in his divine avatar form, Zhang Bin's voice thundered across the barren desert. In the name of the dwarf god, I command you, crush these pathetic locusts and destroy this divine realm's core. The 5,000 dwarves roared in unison, their weapons raised high. Their battle cries echoed like thunder. shaking the realm as their morale soared to unstoppable heights. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, the students watched the battle live on their devices. The room buzzed with chatter. Zhang Bin is ranked in the top 30 of the grade. Han Wu doesn't stand a chance. On the battlefield, the Dwarf Legion's elite soldier stepped forward, exuding an intimidating aura that seemed to silence even the wind. Han Wu, however, simply raised his hand and commanded, "Self-destruct locusts, attack!" In an instant, countless locusts swarmed forward like a tidal wave, fearlessly charging the Dwarf Legion. The scene left everyone watching in shock. Are those self-destruct locusts elite life forms? Wait a second, wasn't Han Wu's core kin supposed to be just ordinary locusts? How did he get so many elite units? Someone scoffed. Elite or not, what's the point? A single dwarf can crush 10 of those bugs. Trash is still trash, no matter how much you pile up. On the battlefield, the dwarves roared in defiance as the locust swarm approached. Raising their weapons high, they charged forward, eager to slaughter. But the moment the two forces clashed, an earth-shattering explosion erupted. The entire divine realm trembled violently as shockwaves rippled across the desert. The truth was, the day before, Han Wu had sacrificed 2 billion ordinary locusts to exchange for an equivalent value reward. When the system panel appeared, it offered him 3 choices. 1,000 elite goblin warriors, powerful but expendable. Spring of Life, a resource to improve the environment and gradually enhance ecosystem quality. Tier Sacred Relic, a relic with the potential to enhance core kin and grant explosive abilities. Han Wu fell into deep thought. The goblin warriors could save him immediately, but they were only a temporary solution. The Spring of Life was an investment in the future, but it wouldn't help with tomorrow's threats. The Sacred Relic, however, could permanently strengthen his core kin. Perhaps this was the key to turning the tide. In the end, Han Wu chose the Sacred Relic. The moment the exchange was complete, he infused the relic into his core kin. As he held the heart of detonation, it shattered instantly, releasing a burst of explosive energy that spread through his entire kin. The transformation was astonishing. Some of the locusts grew to twice their original size, evolving into the all-new self-destruct locusts, Selite lifeforms. Han Wu picked up one of the newly transformed self-destruct locusts, his curiosity brimming. "Let's test this out." Explode! He hurled the locust forward with all his might. Boom! A deafening explosion erupted, its power rivaling a grenade. Though it was far from enough to wipe out the Dwarf Legion, Han Wu's eyes sparkled with confidence as he gazed at the seemingly endless swarm of self-destruct locusts. If I pile up enough of these, things might get interesting. The scene shifted back to the battlefield. As the smoke cleared, over half of Zhang Bin's 5-strong Dwarf Legion lay dead. The remaining elite dwarves were heavily injured, barely able to stand, let alone fight. Meanwhile, the sky swarmed with 50,000 self-destruct locusts, their red bodies blotting out the sun. On the ground, an endless mass of ordinary locusts covered the land, over 90 million in total. The battle was already decided. Watching this unfold, Qin Xuan's eyes lit up with excitement. This guy, he's actually kind of interesting. The Crimson Swarm descended once more. Even the elite dwarfs, known for their resilience, trembled in fear as the endless sea of locusts surged toward them. Zhang Bin's face turned pale. Gritting his teeth, he shouted, "All dwarves, retreat to our divine realm now." But Han Wu smirked coldly. "Run? You think I'll let you off that easily?" Tapping into the locust's natural flight ability, he commanded the swarm to follow the dwarves through the portal. In moments, the 90 million locusts surged into Zhang Bin's divine realm like a black storm, fearlessly sacrificing themselves to blow everything in sight to ashes. Hovering in the sky in his divine avatar form, Zhang Bin refused to back down. His voice thundered with desperation. "Get your kin out of my divine realm right now." But wherever the locusts went, nothing was left behind. Even the last elite dwarf was reduced to fragments by the relentless explosions. Zhang Bin's aura shattered completely. He clenched his fists and snarled through trembling lips, "I surrender! Call off your locusts and let my kin return." Han Wu's smirk grew colder. "Weren't you planning to destroy my divine realm core? Well then, it's only fair I destroy yours in return." Zhang Bin's panic turned to fury as he shouted, "You wouldn't dare! My parents won't let you get away with this. My dad's a demigod, And my mom's about to ascend too. Before he could finish his threat, Han Wu issued his final order, at all costs, smash his core. On the other side of the portal, Zhang Bin broke down completely. Tears streamed down his face as he screamed, "Stop! I give up! I'll never bully you again. Whatever you want, I'll do it. Just name your price." Han Wu's expression remained cold and unfeeling. "I don't need anything from you right now. I just want to see you reduced to nothing." Just as Han Wu prepared to destroy Zhang Bin's divine realm entirely, a stern voice rang out. "Enough, Han Wu!" A divine avatar materialized in the sky above the realm. "Han Wu, stop this. You've already won. Why push things this far?" Hearing this, Zhang Bin clung to the voice like a drowning man to a lifeline. He burst into tears, crying out, "Mr. Liu, please stop this lunatic. My parents will surely reward you handsomely." But before he could finish, the core of his divine realm cracked under the relentless assault of the locusts, emitting an ear-piercing screech as it strained to hold together. Zhang Bin collapsed to the ground, sobbing, "No, Mr. Liu, save me. I don't want to be crippled." Liu Letian saw that Han Wu had no intention of stopping and barked with more authority, "Didn't you hear what I said? Stop, now." Han Wu chuckled softly and looked up. "Mr. Liu, may I ask you a question?" Liu Letian frowned, his tone cold. "What question? Why are you here?" "As your homegrown teacher, I can sense any disturbance among my students," Liu Letian replied matter-of-factly. Han Wu pressed on. "Then where were you when Zhang Bin was extorting and beating me? Why didn't you show up then?" This question made Liu Letian's face darken. His voice turned icy. "Stop now, and I'll explain." But inwardly, he muttered to himself, "Zhang Bin's parents are demigods. Why should I offend them for you?" Han Wu's smirk deepened. "One last question. If it were my divine realm being attacked today, would you have stepped in to stop it?" Liu Letian fell silent, completely at a loss for words. Seeing his hesitation, Han Wu shook his head in disappointment. "Forget it, I already know the answer." As soon as he finished speaking, a deafening explosion shook the realm. Countless locusts detonated simultaneously, obliterating Zhang Bin's divine realm core into shards. Amid Zhang Bin's anguished screams, his divine realm disintegrated into dust, collapsing entirely. Han Wu picked up the scattered fragments of the core and turned to Liu Letian with an icy gaze. "Mr. Liu, kindly leave my divine realm." Meanwhile, back in the classroom, the live battle feed was suddenly cut off, causing an uproar among the students. They turned to look at Zhang Bin, who was slumped on the floor, muttering in a broken voice, "It's gone, everything's gone, I'm finished." Not long after, Liu Letian stormed into the classroom, his face red with anger. "Han Wu, get out here right now," he bellowed. He searched the entire classroom, but Han Wu was nowhere to be found. "Where is he?" Liu Letian demanded. A student replied nervously, their voice trembling. "He might have gone home." Liu Letian clenched his teeth in frustration. Students like him deserved to be expelled. Meanwhile, Han Wu had returned home and logged into his divine realm the moment he arrived. Opening his control panel, he reviewed the aftermath of the battle. Self-destruct locusts, over 18,000 remaining. Ordinary locusts, just over 4 million left. The losses were heavy, but the spoils of war included the fragments of Zhang Bin's divine realm, perfect for strengthening his own. With a wave of his hand, Han Wu shattered the fragments into streams of light that merged into his divine realm. Soon, the panel updated with the following changes. Divine Realm Core upgraded to Level 2. Acquired Tier Sacred Relic, Dwarf Hammer. Gained 18 Dwarf Units. Expanded Divine Realm Area to 260 square kilometers. Looking at these bountiful rewards, Han Wu couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. This should be enough to last me until graduation. But deep down, he knew the trouble wasn't over. Zhang Bin wouldn't let this go. His parents were bound to come after him, and the school definitely wouldn't protect him. "I need to grow stronger fast," Han Wu thought grimly. "No more delays." Thinking about this, Han Wu wasted no time enlisting the dwarf hammer on the trading network, hoping to exchange it for resources he desperately needed. It didn't take long before a buyer reached out, however. Han Wu stuck firmly to his trade-only policy, forcing the other party to offer a lava fire crystal in exchange. The crystal was a rare resource that could enhance a kin's fire resistance and amplify explosive power. Han Wu immediately hit confirm. With this, my self-destruct locusts can evolve again. Using the lava fire crystal, Han Wu upgraded 1/1000th of his ordinary locusts into bursting locusts. To test their power, Han Wu casually grabbed one of the bursting locusts and tossed it into the air. Boom! A thunderous explosion erupted mid-air, even stronger than a grenade. The blast was followed by splattering lava, which spread over a wide area and caused devastating damage. Impressive! With this level of destructive power, I can hold my own even against stronger enemies. Meanwhile, Zhang Ben's parents stormed into the school's disciplinary office, demanding answers. The disciplinary director remained calm as he explained, "Based on our investigation, this divine realm invasion was initiated by your son, Zhang Ben. Moreover, his repeated bullying of classmates is a clear violation of school rules." Zhang Bin's father's face darkened with rage. "Are you saying this is all my son's fault? That the school bears no responsibility?" His mother, equally furious, raised her voice. "The student who destroyed my son's divine realm core must be punished. The school must expel him." At this moment, Han Wu was in his divine realm, repeatedly using his growth acceleration ability to rapidly multiply the number of bursting locusts. Just as he was about to activate Life Sacrifice, a video request suddenly popped up. Han Wu glanced at it and saw it was from the school administration. After a brief hesitation, he chose to accept the call. "Hello, Han Wu, this is Director Xu." A calm voice came through the screen. "Zhang Bin's parents are at the school, demanding punishment for you." Xu Mei proceeded to explain the situation in detail, recounting everything that had transpired. Zhang Bin's mother was adamant that Han Wu should be expelled, but Xu Mei firmly refused. This entire incident was instigated by Zhang Bin's unauthorized invasion. Moreover, Han Wu's retaliation was entirely within the rules. With no evidence of cheating, the school has no grounds to expel him. Hearing this, Zhang Bin's mother's face turned red with fury. "So, you're defending this troublemaker who destroyed my son's divine realm core? Is this what your school stands for, protecting bad students?" Despite the accusation, Xu Mei's tone remained calm and polite. "Mrs. Du, please don't distort the facts. We have substantial evidence that your son repeatedly bullied Han Wu." This statement made Zhang Bin's mother's veins bulge with anger. "Don't talk to me about irrelevant nonsense. I'm asking you one thing, will you expel him or not?" Xu Mei's expression didn't waver. "I'm sorry, but we cannot do that." At this, Zhang Bin's father let out a cold snort and delivered a thinly veiled threat. "Director Xu, I'm willing to accept that the school won't expel Han Wu, but as the aggrieved party, I must have my revenge. If you refuse even this modest request, then I won't bother showing any respect for the school's reputation anymore." The scene shifted back to reality. Xu Mei looked at Han Wu and said, "Zhang Bin's father plans to lead a 1,000-strong team to invade your divine realm, regardless of the outcome. They've agreed not to pursue the matter further. This is the best protection the school could negotiate for you." She paused for a moment before adding, "However, this 1,000-man team, led by a demigod, has the combat strength of an ordinary student army of 50,000. Han Wu, can you handle it?" Han Wu nodded lightly, his tone calm. "Thank you, Director Xu. I'll come to school tomorrow and face this challenge." After ending the call, Han Wu knew time was of the essence. He had to launch his second life sacrifice immediately. With a wave of his hand, a massive life sacrifice array appeared overhead, instantly absorbing 4.8 billion locusts into its glowing vortex. Moments later, the system panel presented 3 new options. The quality of these choices far surpassed those from the first sacrifice. After a brief moment of thought, Han Wu decisively selected the third option. Summon hero Zhan Tai Jian Feng. A moment later, an elderly figure appeared before him. The old man was frail yet imposing, with 2 pairs of arms and an aura of authority radiating from his thin frame. Zhan Tai Jian Feng, Swordwind Clan, heroic life form. The elder's piercing eyes locked onto Han Wu as he spoke respectfully. "Oh God, I require a sword. As a member of the Swordwind Clan, I cannot wield my full strength without one in hand." Han Wu nodded in agreement. "Of course, a top-tier weapon is a must for you." He accessed the trading network, calculating his resources carefully. With the faith power generated by cultivating my locusts over the past 2 days, I've accumulated 1 point of divine power for every billion faith points, including the divine power left from my previous land sales. I now have 54 points in total. Without hesitation, Han Wu placed an order for a faith class weapon, Storm Great Sword. Equipment tiers: ordinary gear, basic weapons with no energy infusion. Faith class gear, infused with special effects, ideal for combat support. Divine power gear, enhanced with large amounts of divine power in crystals, imbued with a soul, and capable of growth. Divinity class gear, usable only by gods, symbolizing ultimate power and authority. When Zhantai Jianfeng took the Storm Great Sword, he gave it a light swing. In an instant, razor-sharp wind blades erupted forward, slicing through the air with terrifying power. Even the residual force of the sword's wind alone displayed astonishing might. However, after a brief pause, Zhantai Jianfeng spoke again, making another request to Han Wu. "Oh God! For me to wield my full power, I will require 3 more weapons of this caliber." Han Wu froze upon hearing the request. Internally, he couldn't help but rant. Does he think divine power points grow on trees? 3 more Storm Great Swords? Easy for him to say. But as he thought about the demigod-led 1,000-man army he'd have to face tomorrow, he knew there was no room for compromise. Buying weapons isn't something I can afford to take lightly, Han Wu muttered to himself. Taking a deep breath to steel his resolve, he finally dialed Qin Shuang's number. At this moment, Qin Shuang was meditating in her divine realm. Countless thunder sparrows fluttered gracefully around her. These thunder sparrows were her core kin, naturally elite life forms, masters of lightning, and formidable aerial combat units. With such powerful attributes, Qin Shuang's strength consistently placed her in the top 5 of her grade. Yet her focus wasn't on the thunder sparrows. Instead, she was lost in a memory. She recalled a moment from her childhood. She had accidentally fallen into a lake during elementary school. As she struggled, on the verge of drowning, a small figure leapt into the water and dragged her to safety. That boy had even performed CPR, pulling her back from the brink of death. That boy was Han Wu. Since that day, Qin Shuang had kept a quiet eye on him. But this dense blockhead never seemed willing to accept her help. That idiot. He totally deserves to be crushed under pressure, Qin Shuang muttered through gritted teeth. My grandfather is a true god, and I have 23 demigods in my family. You think I can't protect you? This is straight out of a CEO falling for a poor guy romance trope. As she huffed and puffed to herself, a video request suddenly popped up. The caller eyed read, Han Wu. Qin Shuang froze, startled, but quickly accepted the call. Her tone was as haughty as ever, laced with her usual tsundere attitude. What? Have you finally changed your mind and decided to become my servant? Han Wu cut straight to the point. I'd like to borrow some divine power. Qin Shuang raised an eyebrow and shot back. Borrow divine power? What do you plan to pay me back with? That trashy kid of yours? She let out a cold laugh, continuing her mockery. Don't let winning Zhang Bin's invasion battle get to your head. Your self-destruct locusts barely qualify as elite life forms. They're practically worthless. Hearing this, Han Wu's expression turned icy. Without another word, he hung up the call. Forget it. Sorry to bother you, he said curtly before disconnecting. This turn of events left Qin Shuang completely caught off guard. She froze for a few seconds before frustration set in. What was I even thinking? Why did I blurt out something so mean? That's not what I meant at all. Did he misunderstand me? Of course, he did. After an intense inner struggle, Qin Shuang finally decided to take the initiative and call Han Wu back. When the video connected, Han Wu appeared calm, his tone carrying a subtle edge of control. Hello, what is it? He asked casually. Qin Shuang's cheeks turned red as she huffed. How much do you need? Send me your account info. A few minutes later, Han Wu successfully used the borrowed divine power to purchase the 4 remaining Storm Great Swords. Fully equipped, Zhantai Jianfeng immediately demonstrated even greater combat prowess. As a result, Han Wu's faith level rose by 1 tier, upgrading him from general follower to true believer. The next day, Han Wu teleported directly to the classroom, his arrival immediately drawing the attention of the entire class. He actually dared to show up. Isn't he afraid that the demigod's 1,000-man army will crush his divine realm core? I can't wait to see if he stays this calm when it all falls apart. The murmurs around him reached Han Wu's ears. He knew exactly what they were thinking. Everyone was waiting for him to fail, perhaps even hoping for it. Just then, Qin Xuan approached him, her voice tinged with concern. The divine power you borrowed from me, is it to fight the demigod's army? If it is, I'm telling you now, it's a waste of time. Even if it's just a 1,000-man squad, you're no match for them. Han Wu simply shook his head, replying calmly, I don't have any other choice. Qin Xuan leaned in closer and whispered, if you're willing to become my servant, I can have my family put pressure on Zhang Bin's father. His family only has one demigod, but my family has a true god and 23 demigods. He wouldn't dare disobey. But Han Wu shook his head again and firmly refused. I appreciate your kindness, but you should head back. I need to prepare for the demigod's 1,000-man army. Meanwhile, in a shadowy corner of the classroom, a pair of jealous eyes were locked onto Han Wu. Why does he get all of Qin Xuan's attention? That loser, that piece of trash. He needs to die today. Before long, the classroom door opened, and homeroom teacher Liu Litian entered with Zhang Bin's parents in tow. He fawned over them, bowing and scraping, his voice filled with obsequious enthusiasm. Please, come in. Then, pointing toward Han Yu, he plastered on a fake smile and said, That's him, Han Wu. Han Wu watched Liu Litian's shameless display, and couldn't help but feel a pang of helplessness. The moment Zhang Bin's mother laid eyes on Han Wu, she exploded with rage. Charging toward him, she shouted, You little bastard, you destroyed my son's divine realm. Let's see if I don't tear you apart. Zhang Bin's father, Zhang Gang, quickly grabbed her arm, stopping her. His tone was icy as he said, Don't break the school's rules. Homeroom teacher Liu Litian, eager to ingratiate himself with Zhang Gang and his wife, barked like a sycophant. Han Wu, why aren't you stepping forward to face your punishment? Don't waste Mr. Zhang Gang's time. Han Wu smirked inwardly, fully aware that Liu Litian was trying to curry favor with Zhang Gang to secure some personal gain. With a calm expression, Han Wu replied, I'll wait for Director Shumei to arrive as a witness. This remark made Liu Litian almost jump out of his skin with rage. You think a trivial matter like this deserves Director Shumei's presence? I'm already giving you enough respect by being here. Start now, or don't blame me for being rude. But before he could finish his threat, Shumei's figure appeared at the classroom door. Her tone was icy. Mr. Li Yu, and who exactly are you planning to be rude to? Liu Litian's bravado deflated instantly. He plastered on a smile and said, Oh, Director Shumei, there's no need to trouble you with such a small matter. I was just, disciplining one of my students. Shumei let out a cold snort. Mr. Liu, remember, you're a teacher, not a lapdog for some demigod. Do I make myself clear? Zhang Gang frowned, his patience wearing thin. He cut them off abruptly. Now that Director Shumei is here, let's get this over with. Shumei turned to Han Wu, her tone calm but laced with concern. Han Wu, are you ready? Han Wu nodded, his voice firm. I'm ready. With Shumei's approval, Zhang Gang could no longer hold back. He immediately activated an invasion card, summoning his 1,000-strong army into Han Wu's divine realm. At the same time, Han Wu was forcibly pulled into his divine realm once more. A massive portal, over 10 meters tall, appeared in Han Wu's divine realm. Through it marched a 1,000-strong army, their formation vast and intimidating. Leading the charge was a wolf rider captain, an extraordinary lifeform imbued with supernatural strength. Behind him, the rest of the wolf riders, all elite lifeforms, followed closely. These wolf riders were hybrids of green beastmen and their dire wolves, each fully equipped with high-grade armor and radiating an aura of bloodthirsty menace. The spectators watching from outside gasped in shock. Han Wu is finished this time. Wolf riders. Each wolf rider consists of one green beastman and one dire wolf, with their combat power calculated separately. The entire 1,000-man wolf rider corps, effectively 2,000 combat units, stormed into Han Wu's divine realm. At the same time, Zhang Gang's demigod avatar materialized in the sky, his voice cold and merciless. You little bastard, yesterday, you destroyed my son's divine realm core. Today, I'll make you pay in blood. In the classroom, Shumei's expression turned to one of shock. The wolf riders count as 2 combat units per rider. On paper, it's a 1,000-man army, but in reality, it's 2,000 combat units. Qin Shuang scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. A demigod stooping to such tricks just to bully a student? How pathetic. On the battlefield, Zhang Gang's cold voice echoed through the realm. Wolf riders charge. Thousands of bloodthirsty dire wolves surged forward, their howls chilling and their murderous intent palpable. Behind Han Wu, 8 million locusts erupted into the air like a red cloud, blotting out the sky as they swarmed toward the charging wolf riders. In an instant, the two forces clashed, locusts meeting wolves both in the air and on the ground. The moment they collided, the battlefield exploded into a chaotic, deafening battle, the sounds of combat reverberating through the divine realm. Han Wu's swarm of locusts had already sacrificed over 1 million to hold back the Wolf Rider army, but all they managed to inflict were minor injuries on a few riders. The sight caused a stir among the spectators. If he'd been given more time to grow, the outcome might have been different, someone lamented. Even Liu Lishan, who usually mocked Han Wu, couldn't help but express some admiration. He's undeniably talented. If not for this insurmountable obstacle, he might have made a name for himself at school. Before he could finish, a student suddenly cried out, "Look! What's that?" In Han Wu's divine realm, the clouds in the sky began to buzz ominously. The wolf riders at the front sensed the impending danger and halted in their tracks. The next moment, a torrent of bursting locusts rained down from the clouds like meteors. The wolf riders had no way to escape. As the bursting locusts detonated, their explosive power was immense. Not only did the blasts deal massive damage, but they also unleashed torrents of molten lava, causing devastating splash damage across the battlefield. Even the heavily armored wolf riders suffered heavy casualties, and the tide of the battle shifted dramatically. In the classroom, the students and teachers watching the livestream were dumbfounded. What kind of locust is that? Its explosions are massive, and the lava splash is devastating. Is it an extraordinary life form? Someone wondered aloud. Xu Mei quickly turned and asked, "Does anyone here have a detection ability? Find out what kind of locust that is, and share its information immediately." A student stepped forward, activating their detection skill. Moments later, they exclaimed, "I've got it! They're called bursting locusts, and they're elite life forms." Xu Mei's face filled with shock. She thought to herself, Han Wu was always dismissed as having awakened a trashkin, but he's been hiding a trump card like this the entire time? On the battlefield, Zhang Gang's demigod avatar hovered in the air, a cold sneer etched across his face. "Do you really think this is enough to wipe out my wolf riders? Keep dreaming." With a single command, the wolf rider captain let out a feral howl, unleashing his extraordinary power, Frost Aura. A bone-chilling cold radiated from the captain and his dire wolf, spreading rapidly across a 200-meter radius. The temperature plummeted instantly, creating an icy barrier that sealed off the bursting locusts from the wolf riders. Even the lava splashes from the explosions were rendered useless, unable to penetrate the freezing shield. The molten lava accumulating on the ground solidified in mere moments, turning into blackened, lifeless rock. The spectators erupted into chatter once more, their opinions overwhelmingly one-sided. As expected of a demigod, there's no way he'd fall for such cheap tricks. Han Wu's locust swarm was dwindling at an alarming rate. Less than 500,000 remained, and the situation seemed completely hopeless. The surviving wolf riders, now fewer than 200, launched yet another charge. Zhang Gang hovered above the battlefield, his expression cold and mocking. "You little bastard, I'll show you what despair really feels like. Once your core shatters and your divine realm collapses, the school will have no choice but to expel you. After that, your life will be mine to control." With his command, the remaining wolf riders surged toward Han Wu's divine realm core in a frenzied assault. In the classroom, Director Xu Mei watched the scene unfold. As if she could already foresee Han Wu's defeat, she closed her eyes and let out a soft sigh. "It's over." But then, Qin Shuang suddenly noticed something unusual near the core. "Wait, what's that? Who's standing in front of the core?" Inside the divine realm, a lean figure stood tall before Han Wu's core. He had flowing white hair and 4 arms, each gripping a storm great sword. Each storm great sword costs 50 divine power points. 4 of them means 200 points. Isn't Han Wu an orphan? Where did he get so much money? The spectators murmured in astonishment. But what shocked them even more was that this figure wasn't an ordinary life form. Director Xumay's expression turned serious as she spoke after a moment of thought. That's a member of the Swordwind clan, a naturally extraordinary life form. A student scoffed dismissively. So what? The Wolf Rider captain is also an extraordinary life form. As long as he keeps that Swordwind guy busy, the remaining Wolf Riders will break through the defenses and smash Hanwoo's core. Xumei frowned, her tone sharp and severe. This is no ordinary extraordinary life form. That member of the Swordwind clan is a genuine heroic life form. On the battlefield, Sang Gang's expression grew increasingly grim. His gaze fixed on the Swordwind clan, a mix of jealousy and greed boiling inside him. I've worked hard for decades, and only managed to raise one heroic life form. But this kid? He's just a high school senior. Why does he get such an exceptional kin? Clenching his teeth, he growled under his breath. Take him! I must take that heroic life form for myself. Once I shatter Hanwoo's divine realm core, that Swordwind clan will belong to me. Facing the charge of nearly 200 Wolf Riders, a sharp glint flashed in Zhan Tai Jianfeng's eyes. The 4 storm greatswords in his hands trembled slightly, emitting a bone-chilling glow. With a swift motion, Zhan Tai Jianfeng swung all 4 swords simultaneously, unleashing a basic skill, Storm Slash. In an instant, Wolf Riders, both their beast mounts and their riders, were cut down together, as if caught in the blades of a battlefield meat grinder. Sword energy swept across a 100-meter radius, the air itself splitting into razor-sharp wind blades. Every Wolf Rider charging forward was cleaved cleanly in two. Sensing the dire situation, the Wolf Rider captain let out a furious howl. Activating Frost Aura once again, he unleashed a wave of freezing cold that spun across a 200-meter radius. The biting chill instantly froze Zhan Tai Jianfeng's legs in place, immobilizing him temporarily. Seizing the opportunity, the Wolf Rider captain barked out orders. All units, charge! The surviving Wolf Riders surged forward in unison, their momentum overwhelming as they closed in to surround Zhan Tai Jianfeng, intent on taking him down. Despite the encirclement, Zhan Tai Jianfeng's expression remained cold and unshaken. Raising all 4 storm greatswords, he crossed the blades and spoke calmly. Original skill, Iron Slicing Technique, activate. As his words echoed across the battlefield, a ferocious gale erupted overhead. The energy within the 4 storm greatswords surged to unprecedented levels, forming a massive vortex radiating destructive power. The sky darkened instantly, the howling winds resembling the cries of ghosts and wolves. At the vortex's center, the 4 swords spun rapidly, releasing waves of crushing energy. In the next moment, the vortex exploded outward with catastrophic force, devastating the terrain for miles around. The entire battlefield was left as a massive crater. All of the elite Wolf Riders were reduced to ash in an instant. The scene left every teacher and student watching in stunned silence. Oh my God! Heroic life forms are unbelievably powerful, one student finally exclaimed, unable to contain their awe. On the battlefield, the Wolf Rider captain, an extraordinary life form, had been caught in the aftermath of the attack. His lifeless body lay still, resting peacefully on the ground. At this moment, Sang Gang's face was ashen with rage. Come forth, Wolf Rider General, flatten this divine realm. Soon, a towering figure stepped through the portal. It was the Wolf Rider General, a heroic life form on par with Zhan Tai Jianfeng. His eyes burned with killing intent, and his presence was so overwhelming that the air seemed to freeze around him. Just as Zhang Gang was about to issue his next command, a commanding voice suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Demigod, are you planning to break your promise? Zhang Gang immediately looked up and saw the avatar of the true God principle. His once fiery demeanor deflated in an instant, and he replied in a subdued voice, No, I wouldn't dare. He turned back to the Wolf Rider General and gave a reluctant order. Retreat! The principal's gaze swept over Hanwoo before lingering on Zhan Tai Jianfeng. He murmured softly, Impressive! With that, his figure dissipated into the air. After the battle ended, Zhang Gang and his wife quickly teleported out of the classroom. Meanwhile, the expressions of the students and teachers watching Hanwoo had completely changed. Director Xumei approached Hanwoo, her tone carrying a hint of warning. Hanwoo, heroic life forms are powerful, but they're not invincible. With your current strength, You're still far from breaking into the top 3 of the grade. Han Wu nodded earnestly before replying, Director Shu, I have one more request. I'd like to switch classes. Liu Ladian was stunned by Han Wu's request. He tried to persuade him to stay. Han Wu, I admit, I haven't given you enough attention before. I promise I'll guide you better moving forward, and I'll allocate more resources to you. Please, give me a chance to make things right. However, Han Wu's tone was unwavering. I want to transfer to another class. Liu Ladian had secretly hoped to ride on Han Wu's rising fame, knowing that with steady growth, Han Wu was bound to gain admission to a top-tier university. Xu Mei spoke up with a hint of hesitation. Han Wu, switching classes isn't as simple as you might think. The school has its regulations. If you truly want to transfer, you'll need to pass a test assigned by the school. If you succeed, I'll personally handle your transfer paperwork. Before anyone could respond, Qin Shuang stepped forward with determination. Director Xu, I'd like to apply for the test too. Liu Ladian forced a smile. Qin Shuang, if there's something you're unhappy with, just tell me. I promise I'll fix it. There's no need to go as far as switching classes. But Qin Shuang, with her powerful family background, replied coldly, There's nothing I'm unhappy with. I just don't want to stay in this class anymore. Her words had barely landed when Zhang Xiaolong, who secretly admired her, also applied for the transfer test. Director Xu, I'd like to take the test too. Liu Litian couldn't hold back anymore. Zhang Xiaolong, you're the class president. Why are you jumping into this? Zhang Xiaolong smiled politely. Mr. Liu, thank you for your care and guidance these past few months, but I can't stay in this class any longer. He then glanced at Qin Shuang, silently vowing, I won't let anyone else have you. Xu Mei didn't waste any more time and simply said, the test will be ready tomorrow. Liu, come with me. After school, Qin Shuang found Han Wu. Tell me what's the deal with your heroic life form? Han Wu replied indifferently, it's none of your business. Qin Shuang grew frustrated. Of course it's my business. You owe me 150 divine power points. If you can't repay me, you'll have to become my servant to clear your debt. Han Wu countered calmly. If you want repayment, I can return 5 points as interest for now, but if you're trying to dig for information about the heroic life form, I've got nothing to say. Without waiting for Qin Shuang's response, Han Wu teleported out of the school, leaving her standing there, gritting her teeth in anger and muttering curses. Not long after returning home, Han Wu entered his divine realm using the god login pod. Although the locust's reproductive abilities were astonishing, the aftermath of the intense battle was evident. The self-destruct locusts had only recovered to 1 million, while the bursting locusts had dwindled to a mere 30,000. At that moment, Jan Taiji and Feng descended from the sky and reported, Oh great God, some wolf riders have escaped and are hiding in the mountains. Shall we eliminate them? Han Wu weighed his options. Some of the wolf riders survived. There are still Downsons left. Leaving Zhang Gang's kin alive will only cause trouble in the future. I need to get rid of them, but killing them outright would be such a waste. After a brief moment of consideration, Han Wu issued his command. Capture them alive. I have a use for them. Jan Taiji and Feng nodded, and disappeared instantly. 2 hours later, all the escaped wolf riders, Downsons in total, were bound and kneeling before Han Wu. Without hesitation, Han Wu sacrificed 10 billion ordinary locusts and 24 wolf riders in his divine realm. 3 options immediately appeared before Han Yu. Alpha Battle Armor. Blueprint for a Level 1 Great Forge. 3 Watchtowers. Han Wu was initially intrigued by the Alpha Battle Armor, but quickly dismissed the idea. His locusts lacked intelligence and couldn't possibly operate it. As for the forge, getting locusts to forge weapons was pure fantasy. The watchtowers, a quick glance at his divine realm's modest size made it clear they were unnecessary. As he hesitated, a thought suddenly struck him. What about the dwarves I captured from Zangbin? How are they doing now? Activating his Hawkeye ability, Han Wu sent his consciousness to the dwarven settlement. What he saw left him astonished. The original 800 dwarves had multiplied to 900. They were hard at work, mining ore and forging it into weapons, which they carefully stored. The entire settlement buzzed with activity. At that moment, an elderly dwarf noticed Han Wu's consciousness and exclaimed excitedly, Oh great God! Thank you for blessing us with such a wonderful life. Han Wu couldn't help but marvel. When I first captured these dwarves, I gave them just one command, to mine. I never expected their talents to go so far. They don't just excel at mining, they love it, and crafting as well. Zhang Bin forced them to fight, suppressing their true nature. Clearly, they're better suited as a logistical resource, and this forge, it's perfect for them. With his decision made, Han Wu immediately placed the great forge in the dwarven settlement. The dwarves erupted in cheers, shouting, "The god has bestowed divine blessings upon us." Meanwhile, Liu Leitian was in a meeting with the other homeroom teachers of the same grade. Everyone, regarding the transfer tests for Han Yu and the other two students, the school has entrusted us with the authority to oversee the tests. Any thoughts? One of the homeroom teachers smirked and said mockingly, "What's there to think about? Of course, we should thank you, Mr. Liu, for your generosity. Letting 3 top students transfer, what a great gift for us." Liu Leitian ignored the sarcasm and responded calmly, "I don't care how Qin Shuang and Zhang Xiaolong's tests are handled, but as for Han Wu, I insist on raising his test difficulty to the maximum level. A student who disrespects their teacher deserves harsh punishment." Hearing this, the other homeroom teachers nodded in agreement. Han Wu is just an orphan with no family background. It wouldn't hurt to use this chance to make things easier for Mr. Liu and return the favor. The next day, Lidian handed 3 cards to Han Wu, Qin Shuang, and Zhang Xiaolong. "These are your test requirements. Zhang Xiaolong and Qin Shuang's tests are both at level 1. They only need to repel 1,000 foreign invaders." He paused for effect before turning to Han Wu. "As for you, your test is set at level 10. You'll need to defend against 10,000 foreign invaders." Han Wu was stunned. His test difficulty was 10 times higher than the others. Seeing this, Director Zhu Mei couldn't help but interject, "Mr. Liu, perhaps you should reconsider Han Wu's test requirements." But Liu Leitian responded with a cold smirk. This was a unanimous decision by all the grade's homeroom teachers. Han Wu remained unfazed, smiling lightly. "It's fine. I'm sure Mr. Liu just wants me to show my abilities to my future homeroom teacher." His nonchalant attitude made Liu Leitian's blood boil. Gritting his teeth, he cursed inwardly, "Just you wait, kid. Don't get cocky." At that moment, Qin Shuang stepped forward and tried to persuade Han Wu. "My offer still stands. If you agree to become my servant, I guarantee that no one in this school, besides me, will dare to bully you." Han Wu noticed her peculiar fixation on making him her servant and smiled faintly. "I appreciate your kindness. Let's talk after the test." Being rejected again, Qin Shuang pouted in frustration. "You're so ungrateful," she muttered. This scene didn't escape Zhang Xiaolong's notice. Seeing Qin Shuang's irritation, he was ecstatic. "Han Wu, just wait to embarrass yourself." The test was about to begin. 10,000 elite goblins poured into Han Wu's divine realm through a portal. For Han Wu, these 10,000 goblins were more of a headache than Zhang Gang's wolf cavalry, who were semi-divine. The students outside started gossiping. "I heard Han Wu's test difficulty is the highest. He really pissed off Teacher Liu. Let's see how this plays out." At that moment, Han Wu cursed inwardly. "Damn Leitian, can you just act like a decent person for once? Goblins with high fire resistance, and 10,000 of them. This is going to be tough." Liu Leitian, standing off to the side, chuckled to himself. "Han Wu, don't blame me. You rejected my kind offer. 10,000 goblins should be enough to flatten your divine realm." Other class instructors, who were friendly with Liu, eagerly congratulated him. "Teacher Liu, congratulations, your grudge is finally settled." Liu Leitian sighed dramatically. "What grudge? After this test, Han Wu will surely understand the kind intentions of us teachers." Xu Mei, not bothering to listen to Liu Leitian's fake sympathy, quietly cheered for Han Wu. "Go, Han Wu!" On the battlefield, things were about to get intense. Inside Han Wu's divine realm, 2 billion locusts filled the sky, descending on the goblin army. But the goblins weren't going down easily. They quickly conjured fireballs, blasting the locusts out of the air one by one, reducing them to ash in an instant. Han Wu's divine avatar watched all this unfold and realized that ordinary locusts were no match for the goblins. With a swift wave of his hand, he commanded 5 million self-destruct locusts to attack. Under the cover of the regular locusts, the self-destruct locusts launched a terrifying suicide attack, but all they managed to take out were 400 goblins. Meanwhile, Qin Shuang and Zun Xiaolong stepped out of the landing pod, clearly having completed their level 1 test. Xu Mei couldn't help but think, locusts are low-level creatures, no matter how you train them, they can't beat goblins, this is looking bad. Han Wu had no choice but to pull out his trump card. After finally gathering 400,000 bursting locusts, he sent them charging at the goblin army under a rain of fireballs. After they self-destructed, a sea of magma turned the whole area into a hellish lava field, wiping out 3,000 goblins in an instant. However, due to the goblins' high fire resistance, the remaining 6,000 goblins continued their march toward the core of Han Wu's divine realm. The teachers and students outside were all convinced, Han Wu is done for. Sure, he still has that hero life form as a trump card, but can he really take down 6,000 goblins? In contrast, Qin Shuang sneered inwardly, he turned me down, it'll serve him right when the goblin army destroys his divine realm core. Xu Mei saw the situation and immediately sent a telepathic message to Han Wu. If you can't hold on, just admit defeat, there's no shame in failure, I believe that given time, you'll rise again. But Han Wu was resolute. Director Xu, since I've decided to change classes, I'll stick to it no matter what, even if I have to sacrifice every last bit of my strength. And besides, I haven't lost yet. At this moment, Zhan Tai Jianfeng swung his 4 storm greatswords, sending violent shockwaves of blades through the air. Any goblin that got too close to the core of the divine realm was struck down with a fatal blow, and waves of goblins fell one after another. However, the goblins at the back remained calm. Taking advantage of Zhan Tai Jianfeng's bloody battle, they summoned fireballs for long-range bombardment. The land around the divine realm core was stained with blood. Even though the hero life form was incredibly powerful, facing the assault of thousands of fireballs, it was still hard to hold his ground. In the end, after Zhan Tai Jianfeng had killed over 5 goblins, he was severely injured, on the brink of death. Liu Litian, witnessing this, was overjoyed. Han Wu, my student, this is the last lesson I'm teaching you, pay close attention. But before he could even savor his triumph, the other class instructors around him suddenly gasped in shock. What is that? At that moment, in front of the divine realm core, over 900 dwarves appeared out of nowhere. Fully armored, the dwarf legion stood at the front, shouting in unison, we swear to protect with our lives. The dwarves' aura was overwhelming, their growls sounding like a battle hymn, shaking the very air around them. Over 1,000 goblins began to tremble in fear. By the time they realized what was happening, 900 dwarves had already struck with their weapons, cutting down the exhausted goblins. The students watching the battle from the outside were stunned. Isn't that the same core kin that Zhang Bin used before? What a talent! With this ability, he's definitely top 10 in the grade. As the battle inside the divine realm gradually subsided, the last remaining few dwarves claimed victory. Han Wu was ecstatic, though nearly all of his locusts had been wiped out. The one thing that gave him relief was that his hero life form, Zhan Tai Jianfeng, hadn't perished. This outcome left both Xu Mei and Qin Shuang shocked, even struggling to believe it. On the side, Liu Letian was even more furious. He had meticulously designed 10,000 goblins with high fire resistance, only to find that Han Wu still had a trump card up his sleeve. Soon, the classroom was crowded with the class instructors from each class. They threw out olive branches, offering all sorts of conditions, willing to give anything just to have Han Wu join their class. But Han Wu remained silent, not responding. Qin Shuang quietly waited for him to speak, while Zhang Xiaolong looked at Qin Shuang, waiting for her to make the first move. After a moment of thought, Han Wu spoke coldly. Director Zhu, may I ask why my test difficulty is so high? Xu Mei answered honestly, the difficulty of the individual tests is decided by all the class instructors of the grade. Han Wu understood what she meant. With a cold sneer he asked, then can I see their voting results? Xu Mei, clearly unhappy with Liu Litian's underhanded tactics, handed him the book directly. At the same time, 9 out of the 12 class instructors cursed Liu Litian inwardly, thinking, I shouldn't have helped that guy from the beginning. Han Wu noticed that 2 of the class instructors had voted against it. He politely asked, if I were to join your class, what would you offer me? The bald class instructor replied, Han Wu, I've seen your ability to train Dwarven kin. If you join my class, I'll provide you with an army of no less than 10,000 dwarves. Another class instructor chimed in, but training the core kin is the real key. I have several resources that are extremely useful for insectoid kin. If you join my class, I'll help you achieve the life transition for your locust kin. Without hesitation, Han Wu chose the second class instructor. No sooner had he spoken than Qin Shuang loudly declared that she wanted to join as well. Naturally, Zhang Xiaolong followed her lead. Tian Wen's face was a mix of surprise and delight. With 3 outstanding students suddenly joining, it seemed that this year, he might finally win the award for outstanding teacher. Then, Tian Wen pulled out 3 exchange cards, smiling as he said, come on, join my class. Here's a little gift from your teacher to welcome you." Han Wu received a level 2 building card. Insect nest, covers 1 square kilometer, can hatch 1 million insectoid creatures per year. Effect, perfectly displays the effects of any relics embedded in the insect nest. Han Wu immediately had an idea. If he built the insect nest in his divine realm, and then used the Heart of Explosion and Lava Fire Crystal, both level 1 relics, to empower the nest, the full power of these relics would be perfectly manifested, influencing the insect eggs hatched within. Every year, the insect nest would hatch 1 million bursting locusts. With this thought, Han Wu was so excited that he bowed deeply to Tian Wen. Tian Wen chuckled and said, "No need for thanks. The best way to repay me is with even better results." Suddenly, Director Xu announced, "Everyone, today's test was just a small trial, but the real focus is the unified exam in 7 days. That will determine the resource allocation for each class. I don't need to tell you just how much weight that exam carries." After returning home, Han Wu entered his divine realm and continued to restore the locust population. The locusts reproduced quickly, though nearly wiped out. They had already recovered some of their numbers in a short period of time, but their current count was still far from enough to participate in the unified exam. He needed to restore their numbers, otherwise, in 7 days, he would be at the bottom of the entire grade. At that moment, Han Wu noticed something surprising. The dwarves' name had changed to Crimson Forge Dwarves. Confused, he immediately directed his divine sense toward the mining area to witness the change firsthand. When he saw the dwarves, he was stunned. The Crimson Forge Dwarves now had red-tinted skin and magma-like bloodlines. They had evolved into naturally born elite life forms. Han Wu thought to himself, if only this were my core kin, but he knew that for now, he could only use more growth accelerators to restore his kin to its former numbers. 4 days later, the locust population had grown to 7 billion. Han Wu clasped his hands together and quietly prayed, "Please let me get something good this time." With that, he used life sacrifice, converting over 7 billion regular locusts into an immense amount of life energy, which surged into the sacrificial array in the sky. In an instant, 3 options appeared before him. Option 1. Gain a level 2 relic, Gluttony Law. The core kin will gain the ability of gluttony, evolving once they consume food whose total energy exceeds their own energy by 1,000 times. Option 2. Hero Template. Assist an extraordinary life form in advancing to a hero life form. Option 3. A Spark of Divinity. Equivalent to 100 million belief power, roughly equal to 100 million divine power. These options exceeded Han Yu's expectations. Each one would be useful to him, but now, he had to choose the most suitable one. Gluttony Law would turn regular locusts into elite life forms, but the cost of nurturing them was extremely high. Hero Template, in simple terms, would create another hero life form, and a Spark of Divinity was like winning the lottery equivalent to 100 million belief power or divine power. After careful consideration, Han Wu ultimately decided on Gluttony Law. Even though he couldn't afford to support billions of elite locusts right now, he would use it in the insect nest to specifically cultivate millions of gluttonous locusts every year. 3 days later, Han Wu logged into his divine realm again and was taken aback by the scene in front of him. "My God! Are you a giant bug or a giant lizard?" He couldn't help but exclaim. "I declare, you're a mix of bursting locusts and blasting locusts," he muttered to himself. The next day, Han Wu had just teleported to school when Qin Shuang stopped him. "Have you thought it through? Are you ready to be my slave?" Qin Shuang sneered. "You have no backers, no resources. With your current strength, there's no way you'll stand out among the many demigod offspring. Your locust breeding is impressive, but it's still too weak. You've done well with taming dwarves, but they're not your core kin. Han Wu didn't want to listen any further. I've acknowledged your kindness. As for whether I can make it, we'll see after the exam. Qin Shuang wanted to help him but couldn't bring herself to lower her pride. In frustration, she stood aside. Zhang Xiaolong, watching the entire exchange, silently thought, Han Wu, one day, I will make you completely disappear from Qin Shuang's sight. She will only have eyes for me. At that moment, the class instructor, Tian Wen, announced, this entrance exam is crucial for the distribution of our class's resources. It's very important. I ask everyone to put forth their best effort. Students with excellent results will be rewarded with sacred artifacts, divine realm land, core fragments, kin legions, and other resources. They're all in my hands. If you have the ability, feel free to take them. Tian Wen then read aloud the rules of the exam. Han Wu skimmed over the rules, and a second ago, he was complaining about how strict the rules were. The exam was so intense that those who failed could even be expelled, but when he saw the rewards, he almost shouted out in excitement. These rewards are way richer than what I got from life sacrifice 3 days ago. He was thrilled. Seeing the other students silent, Tian Wen casually said, the entrance exam begins now. The first round of elimination is about to start. Please get ready, everyone. Soon after, Han Wu and the other students were forcibly teleported into their respective divine realms. Han Wu immediately issued an order. All kin, prepare for battle. As soon as his command was given, the locusts and dwarfs quickly assembled. Just then, out of the thick fog, a group of muscular blood-flesh golems emerged from the teleportation portal. Han Wu was slightly taken aback. Elimination round? Why are the enemies so tough? These blood-flesh golems were regular life forms, but their combat abilities rivaled elite life forms, with tough, leathery skin and immense durability. They were nearly invincible in terms of endurance. The only downside? They were slow. With a wave of his hand, Han Wu ordered 50,000 bursty charge in, initiating a magma self-destruct attack. In an instant, the blood-flesh golems were wiped out, and Han Wu could vaguely smell the aroma of roasted meat. Looks like a feast is coming our way. Crimson Forged Dwarves, drag the bodies of these blood-flesh golems back, he commanded. At his orders, the Crimson Forged Dwarves scrambled forward, eager to comply. 15 minutes later, the blood-flesh golem corpses were reduced to nothing but bones, consumed by the locusts. Han Wu chuckled. This isn't an exam, it's more like a free buffet. Meanwhile, the teachers watching from the sidelines sighed collectively. Sigh, my class has already lost 20 students, a third of the total. This elimination round really is tough, isn't it? Xu Mei, the head teacher, explained. The principal and the 3 vice principals are on the front lines, battling the abyssal civilization for the plains. There's definitely a reason they chose blood-flesh golems as the elimination exam enemy. We can't speculate too much. At that moment, Tian Wen, a teacher, suddenly exclaimed, Well, the blood-flesh golems, which others dread as a nightmare, have now turned into food for his kin. This kid's got some serious skills. Other teachers were equally amazed. To think there's a kin that can completely ignore the toxins inside the blood-flesh golems. This is a new discovery. It's worth studying. Li Ladian snorted. It's just pure luck, blindly hitting the mark. When it comes to real power, his locusts are just trash. Tian Wen, furious at Liu Lishan's insult toward his student, retorted. Luck is part of skill too. From what I've seen, those locusts aren't weak at all. Sure, they're at the bottom of the elite life forms, but they've still made it into the door. Liu Litian disagreed. Even so, in some ways, there's still no match for goblins. Tian Wen felt he was being shallow and patiently explained. The locusts' real strength lies in their breeding rate. They can multiply 1,000-fold in just 1 year. Liu Litian wasn't backing down. He scoffed. I have a student named Liu Mo, and his kin are goblins. Dare to bet whose final score will be higher? Tian Wen, practically seething, shot back. What's there to be afraid of? Let's bet. Then, Liu Ladian flashed a smug grin. All right, we'll make it 5 points of divinity as the bet. We'll have a proper witness. Tian Wen didn't hesitate for a second. You're on. Liu Lishan couldn't help but smile to himself. Tian Wen, you're going to regret this. Liu Mo's my nephew, and I've given him so many resources. Can you afford to give Han Mu the same treatment? The scene shifts back to the exam venue. The elimination round has just ended, and only 400 seatings remain for the ranking assessment, with 100 Hinterty choosing to quit. The class teachers were unfazed. After all, the difficulty of the final exam was so high that student dropouts were expected. However, when the portal opened, what appeared were walking skeleton soldiers, numbering around 100,000. Upon seeing these weak exam monsters, the teachers couldn't hide their surprise. Is this it? Isn't this just free points? Han Wu looked disappointed. I have over 1 billion famished locusts here. Isn't this just making things harder for me? After saying this, he gave the order for his locusts to attack. Soon, the swarm of locusts turned into a cloud of black and collided head-on with the invading skeleton soldiers. 2 hours later, the battle finally ended. Han Wu squatted down, not even feeling the slightest excitement. This is just a bunch of rookies picking at each other. So boring. However, the second wave of exam monsters were still around 100,000 skeletures, but this time, there were quite a few elite monsters among them, ironbone skeleton soldiers. Han Wu wasn't about to let his ordinary locusts die needlessly again. This time, he decided to use a combination of self-destruct locusts and bursting locusts to win. He noticed that the magma terrain had a significant killing effect on the skeleton soldiers, and suddenly an idea struck him. If I keep piling up the magma, the skeletons shouldn't be able to swim through it. Crimson Forge dwarves immediately began pouring molten lava from the great furnace onto the magma terrain. After the order was given, the Crimson Forge dwarfs standing on the hills began to frantically pour the lava. Soon, the ground near the portal turned into a death zone. Any new skeleton soldier that appeared would be instantly consumed by the boiling lava. This move left the teachers outside in awe. Damn, this kid's idea is really unique. Tianwen smiled proudly. You don't see this genius. This is the kind of talent I taught. Li Tian, standing to the side, sneered. What's so impressive about that? It's just surviving the 7th wave. My student Liu Mo also made it to the 7th wave. In Liu Mo's divine realm, not only does he have a massive army of goblin kin, but he also possesses 13 arrow towers, 9 lightning towers, and 12 fireball towers, with a total value of no less than 10 million divine power. Li Tian was ecstatic in his heart. Who can top me? I've invested so many resources. This time, the top spot in the exam is ours with Liu Mo. Just as he was basking in his own smugness, a loud gasp came from the side. Look at Qin Shuang's divine realm. In Qin Shuang's divine realm, there were 100 lightning towers alone, 300,000 thunder sparrows, elite life forms by nature, and 100 ancient tree giants, superior life forms. The teachers couldn't help but marvel. Qin Shuang's family really has money. They gave her so many resources, just one student, and her trump cards outnumber even the demigods. This is ridiculous. Soon, after 10 intense waves of battle, all the skeleton soldiers were wiped out, leaving only 18 remaining students. The difficulty of the 11th wave of invasion was about to rise dramatically. Suddenly, a figure stepped out of the portal. The teachers reacted the fastest, all gasping in surprise. Oh my god, it's an heroic life form. Ordinary heroic life forms wouldn't make the teachers lose their composure, but this particular one could control bones. Bone manipulator, a skeleton tribe heroic life form, bone manipulation, bone aggregation. As soon as it invaded the divine realm, the scattered bones on the ground seemed to be guided by something, and they all began gathering towards the bone manipulator. These bones were left over from the millions of skeleton soldiers from the previous 10 waves, enough to form a mountain. Under the bone manipulator's control, countless bones fused and transformed, quickly assembling into a giant, mountain-sized bone golem. As soon as the bone golem was formed, it unleashed incredible destructive power. Its punches could shatter mountains, and its stones could crack the ground. The kin that had been dominating before now suffered unprecedented heavy blows. In less than 3 minutes, 8 students lost their core kins, crushed into fragments by a single stomp of the bone golem. The teachers outside were drenched in sweat, murmuring, "This is way too hard." 8 students, overwhelmed by the losses, chose to withdraw from the exam. However, Li Lishan kept his eyes fixed on Han Wu's divine realm, his expression flickering with suspicion. Something's wrong. Why is the bone golem in Han Wu's divine realm so much smaller? That's cheating. The other students' bone golems were massive, like mountains, but Han Wu's was only the size of a small hill at best. Tian Wen quickly noticed the discrepancy. That's because most of the bones in Han Wu's divine realm were burned to ash by the magma. The bone manipulator naturally couldn't exert its full power. At the same time, Zhan Taijian Feng swung 4 storm greatswords, unleashing his self-created technique, Iron Slash, and swiftly wiped out all the monsters from the 11th wave. The system immediately announced, 11th wave invasion, cleared. Meanwhile, Han Wu yawned in boredom, thinking the exam would be tough, but it turned out to be so easy. Li Leitian, watching Han Wu's dismissive expression, was instantly furious. This has to be cheating, there's no way. Han Wu must have known the exam content in advance. Tian Wen immediately retorted, don't make baseless accusations. If you have evidence, show it. Li Leitian sneered, Tian Wen, you're covering for your student. Be careful, I might report you to the education board. Everyone can see it. Who doesn't notice Han Wu's strange behavior when fighting the skeleton soldiers? Who would bother cleaning up the battlefield after defeating them? Unless he already knew the bone manipulator was going to appear. Clearing the bones on the battlefield would weaken the bone manipulator's strength. I suspect Han Wu knew the exam questions in advance. This is definitely cheating, and the school must investigate it thoroughly. Tian Wen was momentarily speechless, given how suspiciously convenient everything seemed. At this moment, Xu Mei, the director, stepped in to explain, the content of this exam was arranged by the principal before leaving. Even I didn't know the specifics. If Han Wu really had access to the exam questions, it could only have been leaked by the principal Liu Ladian. Do you honestly think the principal would do something that foolish? Upon hearing this, Liu Ladian broke into a cold sweat. I must have been wrong. Han Wu must have just gotten lucky in defeating the bone manipulator. But even if he didn't cheat, his results are still questionable, and it's unfair to the other students. Xu Mei responded angrily, Liu Litian, you're a demigod, and yet you say something so ridiculous. The Divine Realm civilization doesn't teach fairness, it's all about survival of the fittest. Whether Han Wu's success is due to luck or skill, as long as he didn't cheat, his results belong to him. But you, secretly giving your nephew Liu Mo preferential treatment, that's what's truly unfair to the other students. After hearing the truth, Tian Wen was enraged. Bastard, no wonder you wanted to bet with me. Liu Mo is your nephew, but my student Han Wu has already passed the 11th wave exam. Your nephew might not be able to handle it. At that moment, inside Liu Mo's divine realm, all of his defensive towers worth 10 million divine power were destroyed by the bone giant, and his goblin core kin suffered heavy casualties. With no other choice, Liu Mo decided to forfeit. I'm done. This is as far as I can go. I'm withdrawing from the competition. Tian Wen, savoring the moment, smugly said, the result of our bet is clear now. My student Han Wu cleared the 11th wave, while Liu Mo got stuck here. You're not going to back out of the 5 divine points, right? Liu Litian, not daring to backtrack in front of everyone, replied, Tian Wen, please hold on to those 5 divine points. I promise, one day, I'll get them back. An hour later, the 13th wave invasion ended and only 3 students were left. Han Wu, Qin Shuang, and Wang Fei. But who would come in first was still up for grabs, depending on the upcoming performance. Soon, the 14th wave of monsters invaded. Wang Fei's core kin suffered major losses, and in the end, he had no choice but to quit, securing 3rd place. By the 16th wave of invasion, Qin Shuang's core kin, the Thunder Sparrows, were completely exhausted. Her lightning towers were severely damaged, and 6 of her ancient tree giants had been killed. Realizing she couldn't hold out against the next wave, she chose to forfeit voluntarily. At this point, Han Wu had firmly claimed the once place in the entire grade. Xu Mei, the director, was both shocked and delighted. Filled with awe and joy as she thought, this Han Wu, he's given me so many surprises. At this moment, Han Wu was fully immersed in the exam, completely unaware of the results. He had been battling the invading monsters non-stop, until the 20th wave. Faced with the massive swarm of blasting locusts, the 5,000 skeletal knights of extraordinary life forms suffered heavy losses. The bone manipulator attempted to gather the scattered bones to summon a bone giant for a counterattack. But just as he raised his hand, he was locked onto by another hero life form, Zhan Taijian Feng. with a single strike from his self-created technique, Iron Slash, John Tai Jianfeng tore the bone manipulator apart and sent him to the afterlife. The 20th wave ended, and the 21st wave was about to begin, bringing with it a significant increase in difficulty. As the prompt sounded, a strong aura of death spread from the portal, and the temperature around them suddenly dropped. Soon, a magnificent white bone throne emerged from the portal, with a skeletal lord sitting on it. Her bone-white body was striking, and her chest stood out notably. Han Wu, who had been yawning the whole time, suddenly snapped awake. That chest is way too big, he thought, realizing that he couldn't possibly defend against this wave of invasion. He decisively chose to forfeit. He figured he wouldn't even be able to withstand one of the skeletal lord's attacks. No sooner had he spoken, when an irresistible and overwhelming force of suction came from the portal, pulling the skeletal lord back into it. However, the skeletal lord wasn't planning to retreat so easily. She gripped the portal tightly and held on for 5 seconds. During those few seconds, she didn't attack, but instead hurled a rib bone toward Han Wu's divine realm. The rib turned into a streak of light, flying swiftly toward Han Wu's divine realm, and upon landing, it destroyed a large portion of his land. Han Wu was shocked, as the skeletal lord's immense power meant she could easily kill any hero life form. After the battle, Han Wu's consciousness was quickly transmitted back to his original world. Soon, a huge leaderboard appeared in front of Han Wu, with the words leaderboard written boldly on it. First place, Han Wu. His class ranked first among the 3 top classes with a score of 202, while Liu Ledian's class was in 8th place. Seeing the leaderboard, Liu Ledian ground his teeth in anger, his frustration reaching a boiling point. He knew that if Han Wu and the other 2 hadn't switched classes, the honor of having the top class would belong to his. Those students with poor scores, who hadn't passed the elimination round, were destined to be expelled from the school. Soon, the award ceremony officially began. The school handed out prizes based on the rankings. One by one, Han Wu's rewards were especially luxurious, almost sweeping up all the rewards for the top 50 and the top 3. Even Qin Xuan, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but feel envious and received 1 point of divinity, something she had long desired. The students around them marveled in amazement, whispering to each other, "That guy is really going to hit the jackpot." Han Wu thought to himself, "How should I exchange these reward cards for the best possible items?" He decided to think it through carefully. At that moment, Tian Wen spoke up. "I'll help you pick the most suitable prizes." Han Wu nodded, thinking to himself, "Teacher Tian Wen is truly the most reliable." Following Tian Wen's suggestion, Han Wu exchanged a Divine Realm land card for a 20 square kilometer dense forest terrain. He used a level 1 sacred item exchange card to obtain a level 1 sacred item, the Poison Fog Orb. He upgraded his Divine Realm core directly, finally, built a level 1 temple. As for the Divine Power weapons, since only one could be exchanged, and considering that John Tai Jianfeng required 4 swords to reach his full potential, Han Wu ultimately exchanged a war hammer worth 100,000 divine power for the Crimson Forged Dwarves. This war hammer was forged from the core of the hellish 9-headed serpent, a lord-class life form, and contained powerful fiery energy. However, when he saw the minimum requirements for using this war hammer, Han Wu immediately felt a wave of frustration. "Looks like I can't use it for now. I'll have to wait until a fire-type hero appears among the Crimson Forged Dwarves." An hour later, the homeroom teacher Tian Wen stood at the podium and announced, "Next, let's have the top 3 students from our class come up to receive their class rewards." Under the watchful eyes of the students, Han Wu, Qin Xuan, and a student named Xu Sun walked up to the stage. Tian Wen smiled and said, "Han Wu has taken first place. The class reward is 100 class points and the opportunity to choose 1 item from the high-tier resource vault." With that, Tian Wen opened the resource list. Artifacts: Fountain of Giants, Fountain of Life, Core of Xuan Iron Ore. Skills: Freezing Missile. Buildings: Goblin Nest. Extraordinary Life Forms: Lion Tiger Beast. Han Wu chose the Fountain of Life without hesitation because placing it in his divine realm would directly benefit his core kin, the Locusts. Tian Wen admired him. "This child is truly remarkable. He doesn't blindly pursue overwhelming combat power but knows how to make the most of his strengths. His future is limitless." After school, just as Han Wu was about to leave, he suddenly heard a commanding voice. Congratulations, our new rich kid. Han Wu turned around to see Xu-sun. I offer 105 million divine power to buy that 1 point of divinity you got in the final exam. Let's trade. Han Wu felt a bit uncomfortable with Xu-sun's tone. He coldly asked, "What's the reason?" Xu-sun hurriedly urged, "Reason, if you agree, 85 million divine power is yours. This amount is enough for you to buy a locust life transition route, which can change your destiny." Han Wu was tempted but still felt something was off about this transaction, so he decisively refused. "I don't agree." Xu-sun was frustrated but still pleaded, "Han Wu, my grandfather is about to ascend to true godhood and desperately needs divinity. If you sell me that 1 point of divinity, in addition to the divine power, I'll owe you a favor." Han Wu thought about it. 105 million divine power was indeed a huge sum, enough to help his divine realm support more locusts, and he could quickly earn that 1 point of divinity back, so he was about to agree. Just then, he received a text message from Qin Shuang. "I'll offer 1 in 50 million divine power to buy that 1 point of divinity you got in the final exam. Are you willing?" Han Wu was stunned. Qin Shuang's offer was a whopping 1 in 50 million, a full 40 million more than Xu-sun's. It turned out that 1 point of divinity was worth 100 million divine power, and their offers had already far exceeded its market value. Han Wu couldn't help but ask, "Isn't 1 point of divinity worth 100 million divine power?" Qin Shuang explained, "If divinity is not condensed from the faith of one's own kin, it will be mixed with the faith of other gods, which significantly lowers the success rate of divinity condensation. So, the current market price is 140 million, and it's a rare commodity." Han Wu immediately understood. "I see." He quickly realized that Xu-sun was clearly trying to take advantage of him, so he simply said, "Get lost." Xu-sun was furious, nearly exploding with rage. He growled, "Han Wu, don't think that just because you came first in the final exam you can act so arrogantly. Just wait." Soon after, Han Wu sold the 1 point of divinity to Qin Shuang. The 1 in 50 million divine power was quickly transferred to his account. At this moment, he just wanted to roll around in the wealth he had just gained. After school, Han Wu immediately logged into his divine realm, intending to build a level 1 temple near the Crimson Forge Dwarfs camp. After some time spent recovering, the number of Crimson Forge Dwarfs had slightly increased, though still nowhere near the speed at which his locusts were breeding. There were only 59 of them at the moment. Han Wu then chose a relatively barren piece of land and placed the Fountain of Life in the center. He was confident that, in no time, this land would turn into fertile ground. Next, Han Wu handed the Inferno Warhammer, obtained from his reward card, to the Crimson Forge Dwarves. All the dwarves immediately knelt in awe. "Great God, thank you for bestowing us with this blessing." Finally, Han Wu selected the strongest young dwarf in the camp, named him Shen Chuai, and handed him the exotic seed. "I hope you will soon become an epic life form and wield the Inferno Warhammer." The Crimson Forge Dwarves were all deeply grateful for the divine gift, and every single one of them became a devoted believer. As for Shen Chuai, the one who received the exotic seed, he became a zealous fanatic. However, Han Wu still didn't quite understand the use of his remaining reward level 1 sacred object, Poison Fog Orb. After all, when he chose it, he had simply followed Tian Wen's advice. Just as Han Wu was pondering over the Poison Fog Orb, he received a video request from Tian Wen. Han Wu opened it and asked, "Teacher Tian, it's so late, what's up?" Tian Wen got straight to the point. "Remember the entrance exam a while ago? I made a bet with Liu Letian, and the wager was 5 points of divinity. Well, you aced the exam, and I won big. After some thought, I believe your performance played a key role in my victory, so I've prepared a reward for you, a divinity card, or a demon embryo egg. You can choose one." Han Wu was curious and asked, "What's a demon embryo egg?" Tian Wen continued, explaining, "This was a spoil of war I picked up while fighting in the Outer Realms. It's an egg laid by a heavenly demon insect king. It's been specially treated by ancient magic to be a stillborn, but even in death, it produces 10 liters of demon embryo essence. Every day, you can use it to transform locusts into the lowest tier heavenly demon insects." Upon hearing this, Han Wu immediately recalled Tian Wen mentioning he would help him achieve the life evolution of his core kin. It seemed that this was an important path he could take. Han Wu thought to himself, Everyone thinks my locust kin is too weak, but if I can master life evolution and transform them into heavenly demon insects, they won't be as strong as Qingxuan's thunder sparrow, but at least they'll rival goblins and dwarves, which are just average life forms. His eyes lit up with excitement, and without hesitation, he chose the demon embryo egg. Tianwen smiled upon seeing Han Wu's decision and said, "Heavenly demon insects are highly compatible with poison. You can load the poison fog orb onto your core, and the results will definitely surprise you." Then Han Wu had another question. "Teacher, do you have a source for large amounts of meat? The meat in the stores is just too expensive." Tianwen replied, "The principal is currently exploring the demon abyss realm. We should be able to find plenty of blood-flesh golems there. I can check for you." Han Wu's heart leapt with joy. He felt more certain than ever that changing classes was the right choice. After ending the communication, he thought gratefully, "With these resources, my future is looking brighter than ever." Now, Han Wu's level 2 sacred object, Gluttony Law, was showing impressive results. The locusts in his divine realm were eating faster and their appetites were growing rapidly. The current food supply within the divine realm was nowhere near enough to satisfy them. So, he placed the demon embryo egg beneath the ancient tree, ensuring that the demon embryo essence would be produced faster. He then allowed one of his locusts to absorb the essence. Instantly, the locust began to undergo a transformation and encased itself in a cocoon. Han Wu had been watching beside the demon cocoon for 2 full days when he finally saw signs of it cracking open. As the shell developed more and more fissures, a heavenly demon insect, wrapped in dark magical energy, emerged. This heavenly demon insect was about 10 centimeters long, with sharp mandibles, resembling a locust, but clearly more menacing. While it was still an ordinary creature, its strength was 100 times greater than that of a locust. However, it lacked breeding information, so every heavenly demon insect needed to be assimilated by demon embryo essence. Each drop of demon embryo essence could assimilate 1 locust, and 1 milliliter of essence contained 20 drops with 10 liters of essence. That made a staggering 202 drops. If everything went smoothly, 200 heavenly demon insects could be produced every day. What was even more exciting was that these newly birthed heavenly demon insects were also affected by the Gluttony Law sacred object. Their evolution speed was off the charts. It wouldn't be long before they evolved into elite life forms. Han Wu immediately loaded the level 1 sacred object, the poison fog orb, into his divine realm core. The results were unexpected. Almost immediately, over 90% of the newly hatched heavenly demon insects mutate into poison fog heavenly demon insects, an elite species. Their strength was now on a whole new level. Meanwhile, deep in the demon abyss plane, Principal Yin Ping was frowning deeply. Although he was a true god, even he had his problems. For the past 4 years, he had been battling demons in the demon abyss, slaying countless monsters. Despite having built dozens of incineration furnaces to burn the bodies, he was still overwhelmed. The blood-flesh golem corpses, accumulated over the years, kept piling up. Even if he sealed them in cards, once the divine power inside ran out, the corpses would burst out, continuing to pollute the environment. Just as he was about to pull his hair out from frustration, Tianwen's video request interrupted his thoughts. When he connected, Tianwen awkwardly said, "Principal, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to ask if you could provide some blood-flesh golem corpses. One of my students is interested in purchasing them." Yin Ping raised an eyebrow. "Your student wants blood-flesh golem corpses? Why?" Tianwen explained. He plans to use them to feed his core kin locusts. During the elimination assessment of the entrance exam, he had his locusts consume the corpses of the blood-flesh golems, and there were no negative side effects. Yin Ping suddenly understood. "Ah, so it's that young genius who fought the demigod a few days ago. I didn't expect locusts to have such a use. Too bad the demon abyss isn't suitable for locusts. Or we could introduce them here to eat up the bodies and save a lot of divine power. All right, I've got 1 million blood-flesh golem corpses ready for you. Pass them along to him." The next day, Tianwen contacted him again through video. "Principal, the students' locusts finished all the blood-flesh golem corpses we gave them yesterday, and now he's asking if we can provide a constant supply." Yin Ping was shocked. "What? They finished them in 1 day, and now they want a constant supply?" Tianwen nodded. "Yes, I thought it was a bit outrageous too." Yin Ping was both amazed and pleased. "Ha! We don't need to worry about blood-flesh golem corpses anymore, but it can't be for free." Here's the deal. One divine power can buy 100 blood-flesh golems. Tian Wen immediately relayed the message to Han Wu, and 5 minutes later, Han Wu reported back to the principal, "Principal, I need 1 million divine power." With enough food supply secured, Han Wu's core kin the locusts began to grow rapidly. In just a few days, the number of elite life forms in the divine realm had already surpassed 100 million. Once the number of elite life forms in Han Wu's divine realm reached its maximum capacity, he activated Life Sacrifice, sacrificing 12 billion elite locusts. Immediately after, 3 equally valuable options appeared before him. Option 1. 5 heavily demon insect giant warriors. Option 2. Tear Skull Crystal, Poison Detonation unlocks ultimate poison detonation. Option 3. Decomposition machine capable of breaking down materials and extracting energy crystals. Han Wu's eyes lit up as he saw these choices. The giant warriors were renowned for their incredible destructive power. A single one could be sold for at least 10 million divine power. However, the Tear Poison Detonation skill, when combined with the Heavenly Demon Insect and the Tear Holy Artifacts Poison Fog Orb, was a perfect match. The synergy was undeniable, but Han Wu realized his divine realm core was only level 3, already housing Gluttony Law and Poison Fog Orb, meaning there was no available slot for the Tear Poison Detonation. After weighing the options, Han Wu made his choice. Option 3. The Decomposition Machine. The decomposition machine could break down materials and extract energy crystals, which were highly valued as food for magic-type kin. "I'm going to be rolling in money soon," Han Wu thought, eager for the potential. Next, he decided to test it out with 5 tons of iron ore. He tossed the ore into the machine, and it immediately began operating at high speed. 5 hours later, 3 energy crystals the size of a fist dropped in front of him. Han Wu was extremely satisfied. Not only could these iron crystals serve as food for certain special species, but they could also be used as forging materials. Each crystal was worth 5 divine. Just then, a voice from the Crimson Forge dwarfs echoed through the divine realm. "Great God, while we were mining, we were ambushed by undead creatures. 3 of our companions were injured. Now, clan leader Shen Chui is fighting the undead. Please, great God, grant us your divine blessing and save us." Upon hearing this, Han Wu immediately split his consciousness and checked the situation. It didn't take long before he located the Crimson Forge dwarves. There, clan leader Shen Chui was wielding a faith weapon forged from the infernal warhammer. With each swing, his weapon radiated with powerful momentum. Facing him was a small skeleton, about the same size as a dwarf, looking similar to the skeletal lord from the 21st wave of the entrance exam. Han Wu observed carefully. The little skeleton was surprisingly strong. Every time its bone claws clashed with Shen Chui's warhammer, deep claw marks were left on the hammer, yet the bone claws showed no damage at all. Curious, Han Wu tried to access the skeleton's detailed information using his divine authority, but was met with a query failed message. Apparently, the little skeleton wasn't one of his followers, and he lacked any reconnaissance methods. Unable to gather more information, Han Wu sent out his heroic life form, Zhan Tai Jian Feng, to the battlefield. As expected, Zhan Tai Jian Feng didn't disappoint. With a whirlwind slash, it shattered the skeleton into pieces, but to Han Wu's surprise, the bones seemed to be drawn back together by some unseen force, swiftly reforming without a single flaw. Han Wu, not one to let things go easily, decided against wiping it out immediately. Instead, he tried a different approach. "Submit to me, believe in me, and you shall be reborn." However, the skeleton ignored his offer completely and instead lunged with its bone claws, attacking Han Wu's divine avatar. Laughing, Han Wu wasn't worried, ignorant and childish. "As long as my divine realm stands, my divine avatar is immortal." He then commanded Zhan Tai Jian Feng to continue its mission. "Keep smashing it until it submits to me." 3 days later, the little skeleton, now worn out and lacking its previous luster, finally knelt before Han Wu, its voice faint and feminine. "I am willing to submit to the great God." Han Wu gently patted the skeleton's smooth skull and checked its details. Kin name: Skeleton Clan. Kin rank: Skeletal Lord weak, defective, sealed. Kin talents: Crystal Bones, Resurrection. The scene shifts to a classroom. After the last assessment, nearly all the remaining students were elite, but another test awaited them. This would be the real challenge, one that could truly distinguish them and even determine which top university they would be accepted into. Upon hearing this, Han Wu immediately thought of his grandfather's dying wish. The Imperial City Academy was one of the top universities in the Divine Realm civilization, and it was not only home to the Chaos Star Sea but also contained clues about his missing parents. Tian Wen scanned the room and said frankly, "You will be teleported to a certain plane in the abyss. Specific details about the test will be sent to you shortly. You still have an hour before it begins." The classroom erupted in a flurry of conversation. Abyss plane? It's constantly shrouded in demonic energy. Ordinary kins get corrupted there. Only demons and undead can survive, and there are often undead catastrophes. However, Zhang Xiaolong looked unusually excited. Because his core kin was a demon, he had a natural advantage. This test was practically custom-made for him. At that moment, an unknown number called in. When answered, Liu Litian's voice came through. "Zhang Xiaolong, I need you to eliminate someone for me." Zhang Xiaolong immediately guessed who it was. Han Wu? Liu Litian nodded. "If you help me with this, I'll make sure you're rewarded. Here's a gift from me, take it for now. It will definitely help you in your exam." Zhang Xiaolong opened the email, only to find a card that sealed an extraordinary life form. A demon sub-dragon. This creature was as powerful as a hero-level life form. An hour passed quickly. Under Tian Wen's instructions, all the students were teleported to a certain plane in the abyss, where they were randomly assigned to various regions. Han Wu spent 3 minutes reading through the exam content. The task was simple. Eliminate the skeleton camp, destroy over 90% of the skeletons, and demolish the skeleton tribe's military flag. Then, 4 options appeared before him. He could choose a kin avatar to descend. If the kin avatar died, he would descend in his true form. If his true form died, it would mean real death. Without hesitation, Han Wu chose the Skeleton Lord avatar. In such an environment, it was the only one capable of resisting the abyssal demonic energy. In the next moment, the demonic energy wrapped around him, his flesh and blood instantly dissipating, leaving only white, shade-like bones. At that moment, Han Wu looked like a small skeleton. The surrounding demonic energy had no negative effect on him. In fact, it felt strangely comfortable. According to the exam rules, the maximum number of kins that could be summoned each day was 100. So, Han Wu summoned 100 gluttonous locusts to test them. Sure enough, in less than an hour, 94 of the gluttonous locusts were dead. Of the remaining 6, 3 were half dead, and the other 3 had been infected by the demonic energy and mutated into demonized locusts. The demonized locusts lost all their sanity and became extremely violent. However, since locusts inherently had no intelligence, they still followed Han Wu's commands after mutation. Once the mutation was complete, Han Wu led the demonized locusts to a dark forest. The trees were adorned with dark red fruits, the bone demon fruit mentioned in the task. He instructed the demonized locusts to pick the fruits. The locusts moved swiftly, their sharp mandibles quickly harvesting 100 bone demon fruits. Just as he was about to submit the task, a series of low growls echoed. Several decaying corpses crawled out of the ground. Their bodies had rotted away, leaving only dried bones and some decaying flesh. These corpses had no intelligence and immediately charged at Han Wu. Han Wu's mind stirred. It was the perfect opportunity to test the power of this kin avatar. In no time, he cleared the 20 corpses that had crawled out from the earth, and silence returned to the area. He glanced at the bone demon fruits on the ground and thought to himself that while the task only gave 20 assessment points, it was simple. In comparison, a 100-point task required defeating a demigod. This time he decided to win by sheer quantity. A day passed, and he collected 800 bone demon fruits, sealing them into 40 cards. Although each person could only complete one task, Han Wu came up with a clever plan. He posted a trade request in the class group for task items. Class leader Tian Wen didn't stop him, only reminding everyone, "You can only trade resources obtained in this plane. 3 violations will disqualify you from the exam." The class group instantly became lively. Many students had extra resources on hand, and everyone started exchanging them, saving a lot of time. Meanwhile, on the other side, a man hid in the shadows, smirking coldly. "I've been wondering how to track you down, and you just gave yourself away. This time, let's see how you survive." Zhang Xiaolong transformed into the demonic wyvern. summoning 100 hellhounds that charged straight toward Han Wu's location. At that moment, Han Wu was staring intently at the assessment leaderboard. His score had just spiked dramatically, but before he could celebrate, it dropped to 18th place. He sighed, knowing his advantage wouldn't last long. The real problem? His kin was too weak, and the test had a strict limit on the number of kin he could summon, making it impossible to tackle high-level missions. As he brooded, a squad of skeleton soldiers approached the Bone Demon Fruit tree. The Bone Demon Fruit was a key material for enhancing their power, and they were here to harvest it. But upon arrival, they found the tree completely bare. The skeleton soldiers instantly flew into a rage, their soul flames flickering wildly in their hollow eye sockets. They knew all too well that if they returned empty-handed, the skeleton Knight Lord would punish them severely. Just then, Han Wu, now transformed into a skeleton overlord, stepped out from the shadows, muttering to himself, "I wonder if this disguise will scare them into submission." The skeleton soldiers froze in their tracks the moment they saw Han Wu. Their entire skeletal frames began trembling uncontrollably. Within seconds, every single one of them dropped to their knees, bowing before him. This was the absolute suppression of racial hierarchy, a soul-deep reverence they couldn't resist. Han Wu was stunned. "Holy crap, this works. I just gained a dozen loyal followers for free." He had been stressing over his lack of kin, but now that this group had practically offered themselves, he decided to roll with it. With a commanding tone, he said, "Stand up, lead me to your camp, let's do an inspection." In no time, they arrived at a valley where thousands of skeleton soldiers stood guard. Among them was a skeleton knight, a transcendent being with immense power. Despite Han Wu's short and unassuming stature, the aura of soul pressure he emitted was utterly genuine. Even the skeleton knight, after a brief hesitation, knelt in submission. Without lifting a single finger, Han Wu gained the loyalty of an entire skeleton battalion. This move? Absolute jackpot, he thought with a grin. The skeleton knight spoke respectfully. "I was once part of the first skeleton legion, but during a battle against the blood-flesh golems, I was separated from the main force and forced to station here. The constant attacks from corpses, zombies, and blood-flesh golems have taken a heavy toll on my soldiers. Desperate for reinforcements, I sent the skeleton soldiers to collect bone demon fruit to bolster our strength." Han Wu listened thoughtfully, his fingers tapping against his skeletal chin. "If that's the case, I'll have to make them stronger," he decided. The next day, Han Wu's assessment ranking plummeted from 18th to 178th. The class group chat exploded with chatter. "Looks like Han Wu's glory days are over." But Han Wu paid no attention to the mockery, smirking coldly to himself. "Oh, you just wait, it's time to play my hand." He retrieved a massive stash of equipment and bone crystal stones from his divine realm and distributed them among his skeleton soldiers. The skeleton knight, overwhelmed by gratitude, practically wept tears of bone dust. Minutes later, dozens of skeleton soldiers began to evolve after absorbing the bone crystal stones. Their brittle frames transformed into iron-bone skeletons, elite beings with enhanced strength and durability. Han Wu didn't hesitate any longer. With his newly empowered army, he led the skeleton soldiers straight to the blood-flesh golem nest. According to his intelligence, the nest housed between 8,000 and 10,000 blood-flesh golems. Meanwhile, Han Wu only had about 1,000 skeleton troops at his command. A head-on confrontation was clearly a death wish. Han Wu, however, was no fool. "We'll fight smart, not hard," he declared, swiftly devising a guerrilla warfare strategy. His plan was simple: divide and conquer. Han Wu sent out a single, frail-looking skeleton soldier to stand at the entrance of the blood-flesh golem nest. The blood-flesh golems, mindless and easily provoked, exploded into action as soon as they spotted the intruder. Over 100 of them charged out like a stampeding herd. Following Han Wu's instructions, the skeleton soldier broke into a clumsy jog, leading the enraged golems to the prearranged location. The moment they arrived, over 1,000 skeleton soldiers sprang out from every direction, surrounding the blood-flesh golems in an inescapable trap. The golems, bewildered and slow-witted, were completely overwhelmed. Without realizing it, they plunged into a chaotic brawl they had no hope of winning. The skeleton soldiers had a 10 to numerical advantage and were equipped with the weapons Han Wu had generously bestowed upon them, making the battle an absolute slaughter. During the fight, Han Wu noticed something remarkable. The skeleton knight possessed the ability to convert corpses into new skeleton soldiers, expanding the army with enemy bodies. That's genius, Han Wu thought, impressed by the efficiency of this skill. An hour later, Han Wu's army had swelled to over 7 skeleton soldiers, while the remaining blood-flesh golems in the nest dwindled to just 3,000. Sensing the perfect opportunity, Han Wu gave the order for an all-out assault. With a deafening roar, his 7,000-strong skeleton army stormed the nest. In less than 3 hours, every last blood-flesh golem was wiped out. After the battle, the skeleton knight respectfully presented Han Wu with a blood heart, a sacred artifact. Though it looked disgustingly slimy, it was classified as a tier relic, capable of massively boosting the physical strength of a core kin. With the mission complete, Han Wu submitted the results and effortlessly earned 60 assessment points, catapulting his ranking to 8th place. Elsewhere, a hellhound sniffed its way through the bone demon fruit forest, but all it found were clusters of insect eggs. Zhang Xiaolong, still in his demonic wyvern form, exploded with rage, cursing at the top of his lungs. Damn it, where the hell did that Han Wu brat run off to? His fury cooled slightly when he noticed Han Wu's ranking had just shot up by 60 points. Cross-referencing the task board, Zhao Xiaolong quickly deduced that Han Wu must be near the blood-flesh golem nest. Zhang Xiaolong raced to the nest, only to find legions of skeleton soldiers stationed outside. The sight left him stunned. Damn it, Han Wu, raising a skeleton army in secret, trying to climb the ranks with tricks like this? Keep dreaming. Without a second thought, he commanded his hellhounds to attack. The beasts lunged forward, tearing the outermost skeleton soldiers to shreds. Without missing a beat, the hellhounds surged toward Han Wu's position, catching him completely off guard. The hellhounds, already formidable, had grown even stronger in the demonic abyss's unique environment, far surpassing ordinary elite lifeforms. Sensing their leader in danger, the surrounding skeleton soldiers rushed forward, sacrificing their own bodies to shield Han Wu. In moments, they formed a towering, impenetrable wall of bone. Zhang Xiaolong sneered as he observed the scene. Second day, and he's already amassed this kind of force. If I wait any longer, who'll be able to stop him? He dies today. With that, Zhang Xiaolong charged into the fray, his armored scales smashing through the skeleton soldiers like a wrecking ball. Iron-bone skeletons shattered like glass under his might. Even the skeleton knight, an extraordinary life form, was battered to the brink of collapse by Zhang Xiaolong's relentless strikes. Seeing the chaos unfold, Han Wu decided to speak up, his tone calm despite the carnage. Classmate Zhang Xiaolong, we have no grievances between us. Why are you attacking me? Zhang Xiaolong didn't bring up his secret crush on Qin Shuang, nor the jealousy it stirred within him. Instead, he unleashed a deafening roar, sending dirt and debris flying in every direction. Without further words, he lashed out with his wyvern claws, slamming them down on Han Wu. Han Wu's jade-like skeleton form splintered apart, his bones scattering across the battlefield. The skeleton soldiers froze for a moment, their soul flames flickering violently. Then, with an anguished wail, they charged at the demonic wyvern in a suicidal frenzy. Zhang Xiaolong, however, only chuckled, flapping his wings to ascend into the sky. A worthless mob, not even worth the effort of killing. But the skeleton soldiers refused to give up. Though lifeless, they carried a soul of loyalty and righteousness. To avenge their fallen leader, they would stop at nothing. Just as Zhang Xiaolong vanished into the distance, something miraculous happened. Han Wu's shattered bones began to move, pulled together by an unseen force. His body reassembled itself, piece by piece, until it was whole again. This was one of the skeleton overlord's unique abilities, resurrection. Han Wu stood up, brushing the dust off his bones. Addressing the mourning skeleton soldiers, he barked, "Quit standing there, gather all our forces, and retreat immediately. Find a place Zhang Xiaolong can't reach. Cut off all communication. Once our army is strong enough, we'll strike back." Elsewhere, Zhang Xiaolong opened the withdrawal list, scrolling furiously to find Han Wu's name. After searching for ages, he came up empty. Refusing to believe it, he switched back to the main leaderboard and combed through it carefully. Sure enough, sitting in 160th place, was none other than Han Wu. So that guy didn't die after all, Zhang Xiaolong growled, his anger flaring like an inferno. Without wasting a moment, He rallied his hellhounds and stormed back toward the bloodflesh golem nest, roaring as he went. "This time, I'm wiping you all out, every last one of you." But when he arrived at the nest, the scene before him left him stunned. It was completely deserted, not a single bone fragment remained. In a fit of rage, Zhang Xiaolong let out a deafening howl. "Search! Scour every inch of land within 100 kilometers. I want every last skeleton found." Meanwhile, Han Wu and his surviving skeleton soldiers had already retreated 50 kilometers away. The battle with Zhang Xiaolong had taken a heavy toll on his forces, reducing his army from 7,000 to just 5,000. Knowing he needed to recover quickly, Han Wu decisively brought out more bone crystal stones, infusing his troops with pure bone energy. The results were impressive. Not only did the injured skeleton soldiers fully recover, but many also evolved into iron-bone skeletons. One even advanced to become a knight skeleton, a rare and powerful unit. Still, Han Wu wasn't satisfied. He knew that if he wanted to be noticed by Imperial Academy, he needed to achieve far greater results. After careful deliberation, he selected mission He-64, eliminate the fallen demon tribe. The fallen demons were native creatures of the abyssal plane. While their individual strength was mediocre, the mission carried a reward of 80 points, a clear indication that the tribe's population exceeded 1 million. Han Wu's eyes gleamed with determination. "Perfect, I can use this horde of fallen demons to mass-produce skeleton soldiers." Without hesitation, he issued the command. "Move out, next target, fallen demon tribe." In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. Nearly 300 students across the grade had already withdrawn from the assessment. Among those who remained, Huang Fei and Liu Mo were the clear standouts, firmly holding the first and second positions on the leaderboard. Meanwhile, Han Wu had shockingly fallen to dead last. In a public gathering, Liu Lixin couldn't resist mocking him with biting sarcasm. "I've been saying this all along. Han Wu only got first place in the entrance exam by sheer luck. Some of the teachers were blind enough to treat him like a treasure, but he's nothing more than a loser. No matter how many resources you throw at him, he'll still be useless, a pile of mud that'll never stick to the wall." Hearing this, Tian Wen, a staunch supporter of Han Wu, felt deeply insulted. He shot back angrily. "If you're so confident, how about we make a bet? I'm betting that Han Wu will still come out as the champion this time. 10 points of divinity, do you dare?" Liu Lidian wasn't fazed. On the contrary, his eyes lit up with excitement as he upped the stakes. 10 points of divinity? I don't have that much, but I do have a tier divine healing blessing. I'll wager that against your divinity. Deal. Tian Wen wasn't acting on impulse. He had absolute faith in Han Wu. Why? Because he knew that Han Wu was in the middle of tackling a high-difficulty mission, one worth 80 points. If he succeeded, not only would his points skyrocket, but he'd also catch the attention of top-tier academies. Meanwhile, in a remote plane of the abyss, the fallen demon camp had plunged into despair. Once home to over 1 million fallen demons, the tribe's numbers had dwindled to less than 100,000. This catastrophic loss was the result of Han Wu's relentless guerrilla tactics. Using precision strikes, he lured out small groups of fallen demons, slaughtered them, and resurrected their corpses as skeleton soldiers. Now, his undead army had swelled to a staggering 900,000 skeleton soldiers. Seeing the overwhelming disparity in numbers, Han Wu issued the final command without hesitation. Full-scale assault. All troops, attack! The skeleton knights led the charge into the fallen demon camp. Though the fallen demons fought valiantly, they were no match for the endless waves of skeleton soldiers. Each fallen demon that fell gave rise to a new skeleton soldier. Even the fallen demon prayer, their leader and a rare reviver with the ability to resurrect the dead, couldn't keep pace with the combined efficiency of 3 skeleton knights' summoning abilities. In just 20 minutes, Han Wu's forces annihilated the fallen demon tribe and secured the camp. After the cleanup, Han Wu ordered the 3 skeleton knights to simultaneously use their summoning ability on the prayer's corpse. In moments, the flesh melted away, and flickering soul flames ignited within the empty eye sockets. Slowly, a powerful transcendent undead being emerged. New unit unlocked. Skeleton Reviver. Class: Extraordinary Undead. Abilities: Hard Bones, increased durability and physical resilience. Skeleton Resurrection. Revives fallen skeleton soldiers with enhanced stats. Staring at the attribute panel, Han Wu couldn't help but marvel. The skeleton reviver is even stronger than a skeleton knight. The skeleton reviver demonstrated its power immediately. It raised a hand, casting a faint green light over a pile of shattered skeleton soldier remains. Within moments, the scattered bones reassembled, and the once dead soldiers were fully revived. Han Wu's heart skipped a beat. With the skeleton reviver, I'll never have to worry about losing troops again. Next, the skeleton knights presented the spoils of war to Han Wu. Among the loot were 3 exceptional items. Tear Relic, Fireball Staff, grants Korkin the ability to cast Tear Fireballs. Hero Template Fragment Wand, collect all 4 fragments to evolve a Kim into a heroic life form. Source of Desolation, a rare artifact capable of triggering racial evolution. When Han Wu saw the Source of Desolation, he couldn't contain his excitement. This is a god-tier item for triggering a species-wide evolution. Without wasting time, Han Wu submitted the mission. His points skyrocketed, catapulting into 401's place. As a reward, he received a tier skill crystal, Multi-Fireball. Wasting no time, Han Wu locked onto his next target, a nearby abyssal native tribe worth 70 assessment points. With his 900,000-strong skeleton army at the ready, he raised his hand and gave the order. Advance the army. Next target, the abyssal tribe. Time flew by. In just 3 short days, Han Wu soared from last place to an astonishing 4th rank in the grade. This meteoric rise left the teachers who had once dismissed him utterly speechless. Now, they couldn't stop praising Tian Wen for recognizing Han Wu's potential early on. "You've really found a hidden gem," they exclaimed. However, Liu Ladian remained defiant. With a mocking smirk, he scoffed. "4th place? So what? He's not first, is he?" But before he could finish his taunt, Director Shu's voice boomed over the broadcast system. 2 top-tier academies have extended offers to Han Wu, and 1 second-tier academy has directly invited him for admission without an entrance exam. Liu Litian's face darkened immediately. He shouted in protest, "Why are you only announcing Han Wu's offers? What about the rest of us?" Director Xu replied calmly, "To date, only 1 student has scored over 3,000 points and completed at least 1 mission worth 80 points or more, Han Wu. Therefore, he's the only one eligible for these offers." Liu Litian was left speechless. Moments later, the broadcast continued with another announcement. Qin Shuang has received an offer from the top-tier Berserker Academy. Hearing this, Liu Litian's mood lifted slightly. Without wasting a second, he reached out to Zhang Xiaolong, who was still participating in the assessment. Speaking with urgency, he said, "There are only 3 missions left on the list. You must finish one before Han Wu does. You can't let him take first place. As long as he's not first, I win." Meanwhile, Han Wu was staring intently at the assessment task list, deep in thought. Speaking to himself, he analyzed his situation. "I've reached 380 points and climbed to 3rd place. I'm only 180 points away from first. If I want to overtake the top rank, I'll need to complete 2 more tasks." But the remaining tasks were dauntingly difficult. His gaze shifted toward his massive army, now comprising 20 million skeleton soldiers, 2 heroic life forms, and 200 extraordinary life forms. The question is, can this force annihilate the Minotaur tribe? Han Wu wondered, calculating his chances. The other side, the gates of the Minotaur tribe suddenly came under fierce attack from an unknown kin, throwing the entire camp into chaos. The enraged Minotaurs stormed out to confront their attackers, only to be met by Zhang Xiaolong, in his demonic wyvern form, who laughed uproariously as he commanded his forces. "Push harder, you wouldn't want to let Han Wu snatch first place, would you?" Beside him, Shu Sun, transformed into a lion-tiger beast, shot him an annoyed glare and snapped, "Quit yapping, I'm already giving it everything I've got." Their confidence lasted all of 3 seconds. A Minotaur hero emerged from the camp, wielding an enormous battle mace. With a thunderous swing, it came crashing down on the 2 of them. Boom! The sheer force of the blow sent Zhang Xiaolong and Shu Sun flying backward. The Minotaur, facing 2 extraordinary life forms at once, held its ground effortlessly, showing no signs of weakness. As the battle dragged on without progress, Zhang Xiaolong's confidence began to falter. Gritting his teeth, he muttered, "We need to retreat. If this keeps up, we'll lose everything we've got." Xu Sun nodded in agreement. Even the two of us can't handle a mission of this difficulty. There's no way Han Wu can complete it either. Just as they were preparing to retreat, they noticed something alarming. The entrance to the Minotaur camp was now completely surrounded by a swarming mass of skeleton soldiers, stretching endlessly toward the horizon. The two exchanged a glance, the same thought flashing through their minds. Could this be a necromancer's plague? The battlefield quickly devolved into chaos as the skeleton soldiers clashed with the Minotaurs, hellhounds and lizardmen, creating a massive three-way conflict. The scene was awe-inspiring, with waves of skeleton soldiers being smashed into shards of bone. Zhang Xiaolong and Xu Sun observed from a distance, noting the skeleton soldiers' staggering numbers, but relatively weak individual strength. Calculating their chances, they thought, with the Minotaurs drawing all the attention, now's the perfect time to escape. But Han Wu had planned for this. He deployed one of his heroic life forms, the Bone Manipulator. With a single gesture, the Bone Manipulator summoned scattered bone fragments from the battlefield. In mere moments, the fragments fused together to form a towering 20-meter-tall bone giant. The bone giant strode into the fray, its first punch unleashing catastrophic destruction, toppling enemies in droves. The fallen were swiftly resurrected by skeleton knights, rejoining the battle as skeleton soldiers. Even more terrifying, those soldiers that fell again were revived once more by the skeleton reviver, ensuring that Han Wu's undead army never truly diminished. The seemingly unstoppable onslaught left Zhang Xiaolong and Xu Sun frozen in fear. Without hesitation, they abandoned their kin and bolted. But the bone giant anticipated their escape, blocking their path. Standing on the giant's shoulder, Han Wu smirked and waved. Zhang Xiaolong, Xu Sun, long time no see. Zhang Xiaolong's pupils dilated in disbelief as he stammered. Han Wu, your core kin was supposed to be locusts. Han Wu chuckled softly. Zhang Xiaolong, let's just call this a little gift of reciprocity. Time to send you on your way. Before Zhang Xiaolong could react, the bone giant raised its colossal foot. No, stop, no. Bang! The giant's foot came crashing down, pulverizing Zhang Xiaolong's demonic wyvern form into nothing more than a bloody smear. Beside him, Xu Sun stood paralyzed, his voice trembling. Han Wu, we don't really have any bad blood between us. It's all been a misunderstanding. I'm sorry, killing me won't benefit you at all. Han Wu's expression remained calm as he replied. Killing you doesn't gain me much, but letting you live gains me even less. Xu Sun, on the verge of tears, desperately bargained. I'll give you half of all the treasures I've collected in this realm. Just spare me, please. Han Wu paused to consider, realizing Xu Sun hadn't directly clashed with him before. He nodded. Deal. Sign a contract and you can go. Xu Sun, with an impressive 3-2 Nordi assessment points, undoubtedly had a wealth of treasures. After signing the contract, he fled the scene without looking back, his fear driving him away as fast as his legs could carry him. 5 hours later, the Minotaur tribe lay in ruins. Over 80% of the Minotaurs were dead, their corpses stacked into a grisly hill. The tribe's chieftain, their only heroic life form, finally surrendered in desperation, offering to pledge allegiance to Han Wu. Han Wu considered for a moment before ultimately accepting their submission. With the battle resolved, he submitted the mission, earning 90 points. Now, Han Wu's total points had risen to 357, just 40 points shy of first place. 2 tasks remained on the board, and Han Wu was already strategizing his next move. But his joy was short-lived. Within seconds, one of the 90-point tasks turned gray, marking it as unavailable. What happened? Han Wu muttered in confusion. The leaderboard quickly provided the answer. Xin Shuang had just completed the task, raising her total to 3,180 points and claiming second place. Han Wu sighed as he stared at the updated leaderboard. He knew that if he wanted to secure the top spot, only one option remained: the final task, slaying the Dark Frogman, a demigod-level creature. The task's difficulty was staggering. Even with Han Wu's 20 million skeleton soldiers, the odds were against him. The Dark Frogman's semi-divine strength, combined with its home field advantage, made it a nearly impossible opponent. Still, Han Wu didn't flinch. To catch the attention of the prestigious Kyoto Academy, he had to take the risk. Without hesitation, he issued the command. All troops, move out. Target the Dark Frogman's lair. Elsewhere, the homeroom teachers had completed compiling the assessment data. The tasks for all 11 classes were officially concluded, leaving only 3 students still inside the assessment arena: Qin Shuang, Han Hu, and He Xiu Sun, all from Tian Wen's class. Liu Leiting sneered at the announcement, his voice dripping with sarcasm. What a pointless show. The only task left is to slay the demigod Dark Frogman. None of the 11 classes dared to even attempt it, and no one in history has ever succeeded. They're just wasting their time. Tian Wen, however, remained unfazed, with a calm demeanor. He replied, Han Wu and Qin Shuang are indeed challenging the demigod Dark Frogman. As for the outcome, we'll see soon enough. I have full confidence in my students. The scene shifts to Qin Shuang, in her Thunder Sparrow form, soaring high above the Dark Frogman's domain. A massive flock of 10,000 Thunder Sparrows had gathered, forming an ominous storm cloud charged with electricity. Lightning bolts rained down from the heavens, turning the skies into a dazzling white canvas of unrelenting power. The destructive energy obliterated vast swaths of Dark Frogman forces, their charred bodies littering the ground. The sheer magnitude of the assault was enough to finally draw the attention of the demigod Dark Frogman. From within the tribe's stronghold, the Dark Frogman raised its webbed hands, conjuring a dense sphere of dark energy. With a guttural roar, the energy expanded into an immense barrier of shadow enveloping the entire territory. The barrier, impenetrable and unyielding, blocked every lightning strike from above. A cold, venomous voice emanated from behind the shield. You dare destroy my tribe? You dare slaughter my kin? I curse you. May you never find peace, and may you die in agony. Before the words even faded, a beam of dark energy shot out from the barrier, aimed directly at Qin Shuang's golden-crested Thunder Sparrow form. The attack struck true. Instantly, Qin Shuang felt as if the world was spinning out of control. A crushing wave of weakness overwhelmed her, pressing down on every nerve in her body. Unable to maintain her altitude, she plummeted from the skies, spiraling helplessly toward the ground. In that desperate moment, an intense golden light erupted from Qin Shuang's body. This was one of the trump cards prepared by her family, Purification Divine Art. The divine magic swept away the curse energy in an instant, neutralizing the demigod's spell. Qin Shuang's strength returned, and she steadied herself mid-air. Without hesitation, Qin Shuang flapped her wings, conjuring a massive lightning orb crackling with raw energy. With a fierce cry, she hurled it toward the dark barrier. She knew, however, that breaking through the demigod's formidable shield alone was impossible. Acting quickly, she issued a command to her flock of 10,000 Thunder Sparrows. The entire flock moved as one, unleashing an endless barrage of lightning orbs, each one packed with devastating power. The storm of orbs rained down on the barrier like a deluge, hammering it relentlessly. After 3 intense waves of coordinated attacks, the once impenetrable dark shield began to crack, its surface spider-webbing with fractures. At that moment, the demigod Dark Frogman began casting another spell, its webbed hands weaving complex sigils as it roared. Mountain-devouring demon frog, rise! With those words, a gargantuan mountain-devouring demon frog emerged before Qin Shuang, towering like a living mountain. Its scarlet eyes flickered with madness. In the blink of an eye, its massive tongue, stretching over a kilometer long, shot out with astonishing speed. The slimy appendage wrapped tightly around Qin Shuang, pinning her golden-crested Thunder Sparrow form. Before she could react, the enormous pull of the tongue dragged her into the frog's cavernous belly. Inside, the space was dark, damp, and oppressive. Qin Shuang struggled to unleash bursts of lightning, but to no avail. This thing is way too massive. My lightning barely scratches it, she thought, panic mounting. Just then, her communicator buzzed. Han Wu was calling. Qin Shuang rolled her eyes, exasperated. Of all times, why does he have to call now, when I'm at my most pathetic? When she answered, Han Wu's face appeared on the screen, his expression amused as he took in her surroundings. Where are you? This place has quite the unique interior design, he quipped. Qin Shuang's patience snapped, and she snarled. None of your business. Ignoring her irritation, Han Wu got straight to the point. Want to team up? If you wait much longer, your Thunder Sparrows will be wiped out. Qin Shuang wanted to retort, but she sighed in defeat. Fine, but let's get one thing clear. If we win, I want the Dark Frogman's body. The rest is yours. Han Wu agreed without hesitation. Deal. Now, have your thunder sparrows rendezvous with my elite forces. I'm in the marshes nearby. Qin Shuang scowled at the mention of his location. A swamp? Seriously? What kind of second-rate battlefield is that? Despite her complaints, she immediately ordered her surviving thunder sparrows to retreat from the battle and head to the marshes to meet Han Wu's forces. Moments later, Han Wu's iron-boned skeletons climbed aboard the thunder sparrows. These massive birds transported the skeletal troops back and forth, efficiently ferrying Han Wu's million-strong skeleton army to the heart of the battlefield. As the skeleton soldiers were ferried to the Dark Frogman's lair by the thunder sparrows, they were unceremoniously dropped from the sky, crashing to the ground in a chaotic free fall. Many iron-boned skeletons shattered upon landing, their brittle frames breaking into piles of fragmented bone. Others barely had time to steady themselves before being smashed flat by the Dark Frogman's mighty strikes. Han Wu, observing from afar, seemed entirely unfazed. He chuckled coldly. These skeletons fall apart at the slightest touch. Fragile, aren't they? But at least they've provided enough raw material. The shattered remains littering the battlefield were exactly what the bone manipulator needed to create its masterpiece. Standing atop a mound of broken bones, the bone manipulator clasped its hands together, emitting an eerie command. The fragmented bones, as though drawn by some invisible force, began converging rapidly. Moments later, a towering bone giant rose from the ground, its massive form dwarfing everything around it. Its sheer presence exuded a terrifying aura, its power far surpassing that of an ordinary heroic life form. The battlefield fell silent for a brief moment, the awe-inspiring sight captivating all who beheld it. But the Dark Frogman heroes didn't flinch. 5 of them immediately chanted an ancient dark ritual, unleashing a combined spell. Swamp Hell. Ground Collapse. The ground beneath the bone giant's feet crumbled without warning, one of its massive legs plunging deep into a newly formed pit. With its balance compromised, the giant was rendered temporarily immobile. Seeing the situation, Han Wu didn't hesitate. Time to change the plan. Skeleton Reviver. Minotaur Shaman, take out the weaker Dark Frogman first. At his command, the Skeleton Reviver and Minotaur Shaman leapt from the bone giant's shoulder, charging straight into the swamp's depths. The Minotaur Shaman, wielding its massive stone totem, smashed it into the enemy ranks, obliterating dozens of elite Dark Frogmen in a single swing. Meanwhile, the Skeleton Reviver activated a wide-area resurrection skill, causing countless skeleton soldiers to rise from the corpses of the fallen Dark Frogmen, forming a fresh wave of undead reinforcements. The sight was nightmarish. From the mound of corpses, swarms of skeleton soldiers emerged, joining the fray against the Dark Frogmen pouring out from the lair. Above the battlefield, the Thunder Sparrows continued their relentless lightning bombardment, further suppressing the enemy's advance. As the battle raged on, the momentum began to shift in Han Wu's favor. However, the demigod Dark Frogman wasn't about to let defeat come so easily. Realizing the dire state of its forces, it clasped its webbed hands together and cast an ultimate dark magic spell. Nightfall. Instantly, an all-encompassing darkness descended over the lair and the surrounding swamp. The battlefield fell silent, shrouded in an oppressive, suffocating void. Han Wu felt the chill of the spell's power, the silence broken only by his murmured words. What a terrifying curse! The darkness sapped the energy from the skeleton soldiers, causing countless of them to collapse, their bones scattering lifelessly to the ground. The tide of battle shifted once more, this time in favor of the Dark Frogmen. Han Wu's gaze swept across the battlefield, his heart sinking as despair crept in. This is it. All my forces are here. Are we really going to lose? At that moment, voices echoed from within Han Wu's divine realm, loud and resolute. O Divine One, we are ready to fight. Hearing the cries of his faithful kin, Han Wu's heart surged with emotion. He muttered excitedly to himself. A new day has come, perfect timing to summon reinforcements. The massive portal of the divine realm creaked open with a deafening roar, tearing through space. First to emerge was Zhan Taiji and Feng, wielding 4 massive storm greatswords. Close behind him came the Crimson Forged Dwarves, fully armed and ready for battle. Leading them was their chieftain, Shen Chui, brandishing the imposing infernal warhammer, his aura radiating raw power. At the rear of the procession, Dozens of colossal heavenly demon insects lumbered through the portal, completing the 100-unit capacity of the summon. Meanwhile, the billions of locusts in the divine realm, too primitive to pass through the portal, began emitting a collective cry. Their voices resonate in Han Wu's mind, pleading, "O Divine One, we are ready, please sacrifice us for your cause." Faced with the dire battlefield situation, Han Wu made a decisive move. He activated life sacrifice. Instantly, the locust swarm surged into a massive sacrificial array, dissolving into pure energy. Moments later, a miraculous reward materialized before Han Wu. Sacred Flame of Hope. Type: Special Artifact. Effects: Dispels darkness, purges negative statuses, and imbues kin with positive energy. A gift of faith from believers, brimming with miraculous potential. Han Wu raised a sacred flame of hope high above his head and shouted, "With the light of the sacred flame, let all darkness be banished." As his voice rang out, a radiant burst of light engulfed the battlefield. The oppressive darkness that had shrouded the Dark Frogman swamp dissipated instantly. The once hidden frogmen were exposed, their positions laid bare. The demigod Dark Frogman stared in disbelief, roaring in rage. "Impossible! You dispelled my dark magic. This cannot be." The light restored clarity and strength to Han Wu's kin, dispelling all the debilitating effects of the darkness. Conversely, the Dark Frogman, deprived of its shadowy domain, grew visibly weaker. Han Wu's eyes locked onto the mountain-devouring demon frog, and he speculated. Qin Shuang must be inside that beast's stomach. He issued a command without hesitation: "Take down the mountain-devouring demon frog." At his order, Shen Shui and Zhan Tai Jianfeng charged forward. Zhan Tai Jianfeng unleashed his signature move, Iron Slash, while Shen Chui followed with a fiery infernal hammer strike. The combined force tore a gaping hole in the demon frog's massive abdomen. From the opening burst forth the trapped golden-crested thunder sparrow, cloaked in radiant lightning. The thunderous energy surrounding Qin Shuang neutralized the corrosive effects of the frog's stomach acid. Free at last, Qin Shuang wasted no time. She turned mid-air and hurled a colossal lightning orb, aiming directly at the mountain-devouring demon frog. The orb engulfed the beast, and in its weakened state, it was instantly reduced to a smoldering, charred husk. Witnessing Qin Shuang's dramatic return, the thunder sparrows circling above erupted with renewed vigor. Their morale soared, and they dove fearlessly into the fray, igniting a fresh wave of battle against the remaining Dark Frogman forces. Meanwhile, the dozens of heavenly demon insects that had emerged from Han Wu's divine realm launched a final, desperate assault. Without hesitation, they chose to self-destruct, detonating themselves in massive explosions that obliterated the remaining Frogman heroes, taking them down in a fiery display of mutual destruction. With the Frogman heroes' magical bindings severed, the 100-meter-tall bone giant regained its mobility. Its colossal bone legs crushed countless Dark Frogmen into unrecognizable smears, each step leaving behind a trail of carnage. Seeing the battle slipping out of its control, the Dark Frogman demigod made a cowardly decision. It attempted to abandon its kin and flee alone. But just as it turned to escape, it found its path blocked by Han Wu, who stood holding the sacred flame of hope, bathed in the artifact's radiant light. Even a demigod had nowhere to hide. Exhausted from casting multiple divine spells, the Dark Frogman demigod was nearly out of power. Its weakened state left it defenseless against Qin Shuang's relentless lightning strikes. Each thunderous bolt drove it closer to death, leaving it writhing on the ground, barely clinging to life. Just as the final blow seemed imminent, Qin Shuang ceased her attack. Her eyes were cold as she declared, "Your turn. As per our agreement, I'll take its body. The rest is yours." The Dark Frogman demigod gasped for breath, its voice weak and pitiful as it pleaded, "Spare me. I'll offer you everything, just let me live." But Han Wu's calm response cut through its desperation like a blade. "Once you're dead, everything you have will still belong to me." Before the demigod could protest, Zhan Tai Jianfeng swung his massive storm great sword, bringing it down in a decisive strike. With a resounding crash, the strongest opponent of the assessment, the Dark Frogman demigod, fell, its reign and life coming to a swift, brutal end. Half an hour later, Han Wu directed his skeleton soldiers to scour the Dark Frogman swamp, amassing every piece of treasure they could find into a towering pile. He turned to Qin Shuang and asked, Are you sure you don't want to take a few of these for yourself? Qin Shuang smiled faintly and shook her head. We had an agreement. Aside from the body, the rest is yours. Before she could say more, Han Wu pulled out a crown from the treasure pile and placed it on her head, grinning mischievously. Consider this my interest payment to you. Qin Shuang blinked in surprise, then her face reddened slightly as she chuckled softly. Fine, I'll accept it, just this once. At that moment, Tian Wen's voice echoed through their communicators. Han Wu, excellent work. The school leadership and top-tier academy recruiters want to meet you. Get back here immediately. The scene shifted and Han Wu arrived at the admissions office for his interview. The admissions officer immediately noticed the girl walking alongside Han Wu. Qin Shuang. Your family is a true god-tier family, with endless resources. You've passed the exam and received the divine body. Right. You're planning to create a lord-level life form, aren't you? How much divinity do you have? The school officials standing by were stunned. None of these leaders, who had been semi-gods for years, had ever been able to cultivate a lord-level life form. Qin Shuang answered honestly, 4 divinity points. Han Wu was shocked inside. 4 divinity points were equivalent to 470 million divine power. She was ridiculously rich. The admissions officer wasn't surprised. In fact, he said calmly, Qin Shuang, you meet the admission requirements for all 3 of our universities. Once you create your lord-level life form, we can fast-track your preparation for school and let you experience campus life. Then, the officer's gaze shifted to Han Wu. His tone changed, becoming more serious. As for you, Han Wu, we've checked your records. Your core kin is locusts, right? Han Wu nodded. That's right. After confirming, the admissions officer marked a cross on his form, then continued, and your divinity is 1 point, correct? Han Wu answered honestly, yes. The admissions officer marked another cross on the form. One final question, we're curious, how did you get the Swordwind clan hero in your divine realm, and the weakened skeleton lord avatar you showed in this exam? Han Wu hesitated for a moment. Clearly, the officer had no idea about his true abilities, so Han Yu politely declined to answer. Can I skip this question? Seeing this, the officer didn't press further and spoke with a slightly dismissive tone. Well, sorry, Han Wu, while you're clearly talented, your qualifications don't meet our standards. Director Xu Mei, standing off to the side, silently sighed. The 3 admissions officers clearly hadn't recognized Han Wu's talent. What a shame. Han Wu wasn't interested in these top-tier universities, but his attitude toward the gods remained calm and composed. I understand. I'll keep working hard. The admissions officer felt his emotions, but gave a perfunctory reply. I wish you the best. After they left, Tian Wen tried to comfort Han Wu. The top-tier universities have high standards. It's normal if you didn't make it in, if you're willing. A few first-rate schools are still inviting you. But Han Wu firmly shook his head. No need. I'm only going to the Imperial Capital Academy. He stepped out of the office, only to be stopped by Qin Shuang. Once I create my lord-level life form, I'll enter a top-tier university as a prep student. Do you plan on going to the Imperial Capital Academy too? Han Wu nodded, his voice steady. Yes. In truth, his goal for attending the Imperial Capital Academy was to search for his missing parents in the chaotic Star Sea. Qin Shuang smiled lightly. All right then, I'll choose the Imperial Capital Academy too, but I'll be entering as a prep student, which means I'll have plenty of resources. By the time you catch up, you might not be my match, so you better hurry up and become my servant while you still can. Han Wu replied while walking away. I've earned plenty of resources on my own. Do I really need to be your servant? I've got to go organize what I've gained today. I'll see you later. Qin Shuang sighed deeply. What a guy, so clueless about romance. The scene shifted and Han Wu absorbed all the rewards from the Abyssal Realm. His info panel immediately updated. Although his core kin locusts hadn't evolved into hero-level lifeforms yet, he already had 6 hero-level lifeforms: the Swordwind clan, Crimson Forged dwarves, skeletons in the Ox Demon clan. He was practically a small-time millionaire now. He could upgrade the equipment of his kin to increase their battle strength, but the most important task was still creating the path of life evolution for his locusts. The first one was Source of the Fallen, used to create the path of corruption. Locusts that followed this life evolution path would directly advance to elite life forms. Gaining stronger resistances and more tenacious vitality, their resistance to negative status effects and magical damage would increase. Following a defensive evolution route, these would be called fallen locusts. The second path, Heart of the Dark Frogman, was used to create the curse path. Locusts, evolving through this path, would also become elite life forms, capable of flying invisibly and inflicting various negative effects on their enemies. They would specialize in assassination. These would be called cursed locusts. Just then, an anxious prayer echoed in Han Wu's mind. Lord, please forgive the foolishness of my people. One of them accidentally threw the sacred staff you gave us into the decomposition machine while breaking down ores. Please, forgive his sin. Han Wu sighed, thinking to himself, that's such a waste. He immediately sent down his divinity avatar to investigate. There, Shen Chui was kneeling, desperately begging for forgiveness. My lord, forgive me. I'm the one who threw the sacred artifact into the machine. I was the fool. Han Wu didn't scold Shen Chui. Instead, he helped him up. Learn from this mistake. You must be more careful next time. Shen Chui, deeply grateful, had tears streaming down his face. Then, Han Wu looked at the rumbling decomposition machine. Feeling a bit frustrated, he was curious about what would come out if a sacred artifact was thrown into it. Suddenly, 2 fire crystals, 1 golden crystal, and a source of the sacred relic appeared in front of him. Han Wu was stunned. The source of the sacred relic actually had the ability to repair or upgrade sacred artifacts. An idea popped into his mind. Could I fix my broken gluttony law with this? With a why not? My na set. Han Wu touched the gluttony law to the source of the sacred relic. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. The source of the sacred relic transformed into streams of power and fused into the gluttony law. His info panel changed. An ordinary life form that consumes 99 times its energy will evolve into an elite life form. Previously, the requirement had been 1,000 times, but now it was lowered. If he had enough source of the sacred relic, he could fully repair the gluttony law. But the problem was, where would he find that many sacred artifacts? In order to acquire sacred artifacts at a very low price, Han Wu decisively opened up the network and checked out what people were discussing. It didn't take long before he found a post that caught his attention. The poster was a true god, and he explained that his weapon had been damaged during an outer realm battle, causing his combat strength to drop significantly. He was hoping someone could help repair his artifact. After reading the post, Han Wu had an idea. Maybe the source of the sacred relic can help repair this weapon, since it's both an artifact and a sacred item. So, he left a comment. I might be able to help. If you're interested, feel free to message me privately. Barely a minute after posting the comment, Han Wu received a communication request. Can you really repair my weapon? Han Wu replied, I can only give it a try. After all, you've been looking for a solution for so long and still haven't found one. There's no harm in trying. If you trust me, just send me a few sacred items. The true god hesitated, then warned Han Yu not to scam him. How high level do your sacred items need to be? I can give you level 4 items right now, but anything above that will take some time. Han Wu said, level E is fine. He was secretly shocked. Level 4 items can be given directly. This guy is loaded. To Han Yu's surprise, the true god immediately sent him 100 sacred items. When Han Wu saw the 100 high-grade level 1 sacred items, he had an urge to just take the loot and run, but it took him only 3 seconds to calm his greedy thoughts. Feeling a little regretful, Han Wu tossed the 100 items into the decomposition machine. The machine roared to life, flames bursting out everywhere. About 2 hours later, a large number of energy crystals poured out, with 109 source of the sacred relic being decomposed from the sacred items. Han Wu quickly sent 100 source of the sacred relic back to the true god, keeping 9 for himself, making sure not to leave any trace. A few minutes later, the true god contacted Han Wu again. I'm Yan Zhong, please, I beg you to help me. Meanwhile, Tian Wen was absorbing the level 3 divine occupation he had gotten from Li Letian during the abyssal plane assessment. His power was steadily increasing, and he was getting closer to becoming a true god. It was a level 3 healing divine occupation, which, though far from the level 5 occupations, was still of decent quality. While he was deep in thought, Tian Wen suddenly received a communication request from Han Wu. When he picked up, Han Wu got straight to the point. How can I get resources to upgrade my Divine Realm core level? I've searched online but can't find anything. Qian Wen replied, resources like divine occupations, divinity, and core shards are so rare that they never show up online. As soon as they're listed, big corporations snatch them up. You helped me beat Li Elysian, so I can give you some of my collected treasures, but there's another way. A senior who was close to me once took me to a place called the Bloodthirsty Arena to compete. Every winner gets a Divine Realm core shard as a reward. Han Wu asked, what kind of place is that? Tian Wen continued, the Bloodthirsty Arena is located in a super large plain, one of the outer world civilizations. It's said to be the property of some god king. The arena isn't just for divinity creatures, sometimes other races compete too. Each match could lead to a lot of kin deaths. Are you okay with that? Han Wu didn't hesitate to answer. No problem, I'm missing a lot of things, but kin definitely isn't one of them. In reality, Han Wu had recently spent a lot of resources cultivating kin, and he was eager to test their strength. 15 minutes later, the two of them arrived at the destination. The Bloodthirsty Arena was located in a massive plain. As Han Wu looked around, he marveled at the new and strange environment. Tian Wen gestured for him to be cautious and wear a mask to avoid detection from the semi-gods. Before you can participate, Tian Wen explained, you have to fill out a registration form. The arena sorts competitors by their level, divinity creatures, semi-gods, and true gods, unless there's a special request. Cross-level matches don't usually happen. There were no restrictions on the number of kin allowed in the matches, but to concede, the kin death rate had to exceed 50%. Some participants would even fight until all their kin were wiped out. Just as Han Wu finished filling out the registration form and got a decent understanding of the rules, the words, match successful, appeared above him. Then, the space cracked open, and a powerful force dragged him into the arena. On the spectator stands, the audience began whispering, that guy looks like a newbie. No way he has much experience. He's a delicate little flower. He's gonna get a savage lesson today. Poor guy, he's facing the brutal rat slave in his first match. Although the voices were distant, they still reached Han Wu's ears clearly. He learned that the rat slave was notorious for his cruel methods, and his kin were likely rats. While Han Wu was processing this information, 2 lines of text appeared above him. Please release your kin, the match will begin in 3 minutes. Then, his opponent, the so-called rat slave, summoned 300 million rats. He sneered and said, boy, scared yet? I'm going to kill all your kin and let you leave maybe. Han Wu smiled faintly and replied calmly, you're going by numbers? Before the words even left his mouth, he waved his hand, and a massive swarm of locusts surged forth, nearly blocking the entire sky above the arena. The battle between 300 million ratmen and tens of billions of locusts kicked off. The ratmen quickly drew their small crossbows and fired 300 million arrows. Han Wu didn't hesitate and immediately issued an order. Fallen locusts deploy defense. As soon as he spoke, a large group of sturdy fallen locusts emerged from the swarm. They activated their shields and effortlessly blocked the first volley of arrows. Seeing the locusts unharmed, the ratmen reloaded their crossbows. Preparing for a second wave, Han Wu seized the moment to command all the cursed locusts to launch a surprise attack from both flanks of the ratmen. The cursed locusts silently blended into the shadows, slipping behind the rat army without them noticing. Then, a series of curses detonated simultaneously: sluggish curse, weakness curse, and blindness curse, immediately affecting over 90% of the ratmen, making it impossible for them to load their crossbows. At that instant, heavily demon insects swarmed from the front, breezing past the fallen locust defenses and charging into the cursed ratmen. Their wings flapped furiously, and their poisonous tails rained down like a storm, covering a large portion of the battlefield in seconds. The poison quickly entered the ratmen's bloodstreams and organs. Within 5 seconds, almost all of them died from the venom. Han Wu's attack had caused catastrophic losses, wiping out over 80% of the rat army. Witnessing the rapid decline in kin survival, the rat slave screamed in rage and despair. Stop! I surrender! I give up! As the rat slave declared his surrender, a protective barrier fell in the center of the arena, separating the kin from both sides. Soon after, a massive magical formation appeared on the ground, absorbing and gathering the bodies of the ratmen. eventually forming a divine realm core fragment, which floated high above. At this moment, Han Wu felt a slight shock, as he realized the formation's patterns were strikingly similar to his own life sacrifice formation, only this one appeared far more powerful. After everything wrapped up, Tian Wen was very pleased with Han Wu's performance. "Well done, you won your first match with ease, and helped me rack up a ton of divine power, and considering your kin losses were minimal, how about going for the second round of competitions? If you win again, you'll earn 10% more Divine Realm Core shards than this time." Han Wu immediately agreed, since the locusts breed at such a fast rate, even if there were more casualties, he could replenish them in no time. Over the next 30 days, Han Wu participated in only 4 matches, only losing 100 million heavenly demon insects, not even enough to keep up with their breeding speed. At this point, Han Wu's Divine Realm Core had leveled up to 7, but to reach level 8, he would need even more core shards than before. Seeing Han Wu a bit down, Tian Wen tried to cheer him up. "With the strength of your kin now, you can challenge a demigod." Han Wu, curious, asked, "Will I get more rewards if I challenge a demigod as a divinity creature?" Tian Wen nodded. "Yes, the rewards will be 10 times more than what you get from a regular victory." Han Wu's interest piqued. He decided to risk it all, using 4 billion locust kin to go big. He submitted his challenge application for an overleveled battle. The reception clerk double-checked, shocked that someone would actually challenge a demigod. This overleveled fight caused a huge stir. Many spectators thought Han Wu didn't stand a chance. Demigods had much higher divine realm core levels, could summon more powerful creatures, and even had divine powers at their disposal. The gap was just too wide. Tian Wen told Han Yu, "Right now, your odds are 1 to 100, no one's betting on you." Han Wu asked Tian Wen to wager 10 million divine power on his victory. Tian Wen chuckled, "You're really going all in. I'll bet 5 million divine power on you too. If you win, I'll reward myself with a divine weapon." Han Wu rolled his eyes. "Thanks, teacher." Han Wu entered his divine realm. After upgrading his divine realm, he hadn't had the chance to add any divine relics yet. What should he add? Currently, his divine realm core only had 2 divine relics, Gluttony Law and Poison Fog Orb, but something still felt like it was missing. Just as he was pondering, the true God Yuan Zhong sent him a message, asking if the source of the sacred relic he had refined today was finished. Han Wu sent him the 100th source of the sacred relic he had refined and casually asked, "Can you get relics below level 4? Yuan Zhong replied, "Yes, I have plenty of level 4 and below relics in stock. If you need any, just let me know." Hearing this, Han Wu didn't hold back. "All right, I need some strong level 2 relics, preferably with poison, earth, dark and fire attributes." No sooner had he finished speaking than 50 level 2 relics were instantly sent over. Han Wu couldn't help but marvel at how wealthy the true god really was. He selected 2 relics that were the best fit for his locust's evolution. Earth Fire Lava Ball. This relic had both earth and fire attributes. It could boost the kin's defense and resistance, as well as improve their recovery ability. Shadow Spike. This relic had the dark attribute. It allowed compatible kin to learn the skill Shadow Spike, which could pin an enemy's shadow and restrict their movement, causing a freezing effect. Han Wu immediately loaded these 2 relics into the Divine Realm Core. In an instant, the sky suddenly became wild with wind. Then, 2 immense forces exploded in the air, and the shockwaves spread to every corner of the Divine Realm. Han Wu immediately felt that all his locust kin were hit by a surge of life essence. About 80% of his locust kin underwent physical mutations. Fallen locust shells became much tougher. Cursed locusts learned the level 2 skill Shadow Spike. Before Han Wu could even check the stats of his locusts, a prompt sounded from within his divine realm. "Contestants, please proceed to the arena to prepare." Without hesitation, Han Wu was teleported to the bloodthirsty arena. At this moment, he felt more confident than ever about his upcoming battle against a demigod. The arena was packed with spectators, their cheers and shouts echoing from all sides. "Elephant Lord, show us your demigod power. Crush him." Elephant Lord sneered and replied, "What a lucky day this is for me, to run into such an ignorant divinity being in bloodthirsty arena. Rookie, get ready to die with your kin. I admire your courage for challenging a demigod, but that's all it is. Courage, not strength. Today, You'll learn just how terrifying a demigod really is. Han Wu couldn't help but roll his eyes. This guy really loves to hear himself talk. Elfin Lord raised his arm and shouted, "Come forth, my mighty mammoth legion." As soon as he finished, 700 massive, 9-meter-tall mammoth war elephants appeared in the arena, and at the forefront, leading them, was a heroic life form, a thunder mammoth. The ground shook with the thundering march of the mammoths. But Han Wu wasn't fazed. Calmly, he opened a portal, and swarms of locusts poured out like an unstoppable tide. Along with self-destruct locusts and bursting locusts, Han Wu had also bred 3 types of extraordinary life-form locusts: toxic exploding celestial demon worms, earthquake abyssal worms, shadow stream cursed worms. Elfin Lord froze for a moment, a flash of surprise in his eyes. Extraordinary life forms, so this is your real strength. Now I'm getting curious. The battle finally began. The massive mammoth army charged at the locusts, and the thunder mammoth at the front unleashed electric arcs from its trunk, instantly turning the locusts it hit into charred remains. Han Wu wasn't about to back down. He immediately sent in the cursed locusts to launch an attack. Following that, a massive swarm of shadow stream cursed worms swiftly joined the fray, launching their secondary shadow spikes from their tails, silently embedding themselves into the shadows of the thunder mammoth. While the shadow stream cursed worms weren't as powerful as heroic life forms, once the number of shadow spikes reached a certain threshold, even the thunder mammoth could only watch helplessly. With every passing second, the thunder mammoth's time of being immobilized became more valuable. Han Wu quickly commanded the toxic exploding celestial demon worms to continue the assault. However, the poison stingers only left a shallow scratch on the thunder mammoth's tough exterior, having little effect. Elfin Lord laughed arrogantly. "So what if you've bred extraordinary life forms of locusts? My giant thunder mammoth could stand still, and you still wouldn't be able to hurt it." Han Wu, however, flashed a knowing smile and lightly asked, "Are you sure about that?" At that moment, the toxic exploding celestial demon worms exploded, their bodies releasing vast amounts of poison fog, instantly enveloping the surrounding area. Seeing his heroic life form being immobilized and continuously bombarded, Elfin Lord started to panic. He immediately commanded the giant mammoth army to charge forward in an attempt to protect the thunder mammoth. Seeing the mammoth horde charging from behind, Han Wu decided to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. He ordered the blasting locusts to intercept. The sound of explosions filled the air as the mammoth army suffered severe damage. Elfin Lord's expression grew more and more serious. In desperation, Elfin Lord activated 3 brutal divine techniques: thick armor, blood rage, and healing. After exhausting most of his divine power, the heavily wounded thunder mammoths regained full health, and their defenses were greatly enhanced. Even though more blasting locusts swarmed in, they could only weaken the mammoth's thick armor, unable to land a fatal blow. Seeing the tide turn in his favor, Elfin Lord smugly laughed. "You forced me to use divine techniques, which shows your strength, but once I've wiped out half of your kin, you can surrender." This remark made Han Wu chuckle. "You think this is my trump card?" Suddenly, Han Wu gave the order, "By my command, the Minotaur tribe, move out." The moment the words left his mouth, the portal behind him burst open. Hundreds, even thousands, of raging Minotaur warriors stormed onto the battlefield. Over 2,000 Minotaurs clashed fiercely with the 740,000 giant mammoths, creating a jaw-dropping scene. The sudden turn of events left Elfin Lord momentarily stunned. Minotaurs, one of the fiercest demon races from the abyss, actually obeyed his command. Before he could react, the lead hero lifeform, a Minotaur shaman, plunged into the mammoth army, wreaking havoc as it slaughtered with wild abandon. The situation was rapidly shifting in Han Wu's favor. Han Wu then summoned the skeleton tribe. This time, as the portal opened, a sea of skeletons poured forth, their terrifying presence spreading across the arena. Amidst the skeletal army, a throne slowly rose, upon which sat the skeleton lord, flanked by the bone manipulator and skeleton reviver. Han Wu stepped up onto the throne, breaking the intimidating atmosphere with a single move. "Skeleton reviver, the rest is yours." The skeleton reviver leaped into action, floating above the giant mammoth army. Raising its staff, it cast a group resurrection spell. In an instant, an army of skeletal mammoths rose from the corpses of their fallen kin. Though they had no flesh, Their missing noses were replaced with sharper tusks. Elephant Lord gritted his teeth. Damn skeletons, can't shake them off. But you think this will defeat a demigod? He sneered. He ordered the giant war mammoths to use the skill War Trample. Nearly 300 giant mammoths, their eyes bloodshot, charged forward, stomping the earth and instantly crushing the skeletal mammoths that stood in their path, turning them into shattered bones. Han Wu's eyes flickered with a cold smile. He'd been waiting for this moment. He immediately ordered the Minotaur tribe to retreat, then commanded the bone manipulator to take the field. In an instant, the shattered bones began to stir and quickly gathered around the bone manipulator. In less than a moment, a towering 20-meter-high bone giant stood before them. With a single step, it crushed a large group of giant mammoths into fragments. Elephant Lord stared, stunned, as cold sweat poured down his face. Left with no choice, he once again used Divine Power, casting the Amplification Divine technique to make his only heroic life form, the giant Thunder Mammoth, grow in size. Under the power of the Divine technique, the Thunder Mammoth's size rapidly expanded, transforming it into a massive behemoth. The giant Thunder Mammoth charged forward with a thunder rush, its tusk crackling with electric energy, but the bone giant remained unfazed, firmly gripping the mammoth's tusks, without taking any damage from the electric shocks. Then, the bone giant swiftly spun, executing a perfect over-the-shoulder throw. The Thunder Mammoth crashed heavily to the ground, its blood-red armor shattered, though its body remained mostly unharmed. Before the Thunder Mammoth could stand, the bone giant slammed down a powerful punch. Despite the tremendous force of the heavy punch skill, the Thunder Mammoth's agile trunk quickly wrapped around the punch, and using its immense strength, it rolled and stood back up. With its overwhelming physical power and momentum, it sent the bone giant flying. The Thunder Mammoth didn't let up, raising its massive stone-like legs, preparing to end the battle with a deadly stomp. However, the bone giant reacted with lightning speed, narrowly dodging the fatal blow. If it had been hit, its bones would have shattered instantly. Taking advantage of the moment, the bone giant swung a heavy punch directly at the Thunder Mammoth's head. The immense power of the strike made the Thunder Mammoth's skull ring with a deep hum. Seeing the opening, Han Wu decisively ordered, "Now, finish it." Suddenly, the bone giant mounted the Thunder Mammoth's back, and then began to throw heavy punches at its massive head, causing the Thunder Mammoth to lose the ability to resist. Finally, the bone giant stopped the assault, grabbed the Thunder Mammoth's tusk with all his might, and with a roar, he snapped the proud tusks off. Elephant Lord was immediately stunned, completely unable to believe that the hero life form he had worked so hard to cultivate was so fragile. The bone giant didn't seem satisfied and once again grabbed the other tusk of the Thunder Mammoth with its bony hands, breaking it off with another violent twist. The Thunder Mammoth groaned in agony, almost crying out, while Han Wu himself was surprised. He had only taught the bone manipulator some close combat skills, and he hadn't expected them to be so effective against the bone giant. With both tusks broken, the Thunder Mammoth lost all will to fight and was quickly knocked down by the bone giant, kicked away like a rag doll. Its enormous body was thrown back carelessly. Elephant Lord instinctively took a few steps back, narrowly avoiding the massive creature's fall. Humiliated, Elephant Lord immediately ordered all the giant mammoths to attack, surrounding the bone giant to avenge the Thunder Mammoth. However, the bone giant remained completely calm, showing no sign of panic. It demonstrated the close combat techniques it had learned, perfectly executing shoulder throws, suplexes, sweeping leg kicks, and other moves. The giant mammoths, standing at 7 or 8 meters tall, seemed like mere toys in its eyes, each strike sending countless creatures flying. But numbers, even if overwhelming, were not entirely useless. Hundreds of thousands of giant mammoths still charged forward without hesitation, relentlessly attacking the bone giant's legs. But eventually, the bone giant's stamina ran out. After taking hits from tens of thousands of mammoths, its body shattered, and it finally crumbled into a heap of broken bones. Seeing the skeletal giant collapse, Han Wu immediately ordered the bold demon clan to charge into the battlefield and rescue the bone manipulator. The battlefield was once again thrown into chaos. The mammoths were torn apart, the bold demons trampled, and locusts scattered into a bloody mist. Meanwhile, the skeletons joined the fight. The skeleton reviver, along with the skeleton knights, used their resurrection abilities to bring back all the fallen giant mammoths. reviving them as unyielding skeletal mammoths that continuously joined the battle. Han Wu's forces weren't just holding steady, they were growing. Over the next 3 hours, Elephant Lord grew more and more anxious. It started as 740,000 against 2,600, then 770,000 against 26,000, and finally 680,000 against 60,000. The enemy forces kept increasing, while Elephant Lord's kin had dwindled to less than 1,000th of Han Wu's army. This crushing situation was almost beyond belief. Finally, after 5.5 hours of intense combat, the demigod Elephant Lord completely broke down and declared surrender. The challenge was over, and Han Wu had won. As the blood and flesh in the arena were quickly absorbed, all the energy gathered into a fragment of the Divine Realm core. Han Wu secretly chuckled. After defeating a demigod, the fragment of the Divine Realm core was indeed heavier. At that moment, a system notification echoed. Han Wu, the bloodthirsty arena management invites you for a meeting. Before Han Wu could respond, a beam of light descended from the sky, enveloping his consciousness. After a brief sensation of weightlessness, he opened his eyes again to find himself in a room. A serious voice came through. "Don't worry, we are the bloodthirsty arena administrators, and we won't harm you. We watched your match, and although you played it a bit cleverly, it still proved your abilities. You are qualified to become the successor of the bloodthirsty arena." The bloodthirsty arena has always been choosing a successor for the owner. Any contestant who wins an Overlord challenge is eligible. Will you accept this challenge? This sudden proposal stunned Han Wu. He couldn't help but begin to consider the value of the bloodthirsty arena.